morning. There you are. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Monday, and we promised you that we'll be right here to kickstart your morning, right? Dear Sisi Hour. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Samuel Njoroge, joined by the other two musketeers. Today, we have 3, not 4. And you'll be seeing them in a short while. I'm talking about Ray and Jane. Ndio hao. Oh! How are you doing?
Good.
My ladies. Can
like
I
the
say that
haircut.
on national television?
Milady.
Yeah, me ladies. Yeah, you good?
Like the haircut.
No, not too. Sorry, what?
The haircut.
Oh, yeah, there's that image you shared with us over the weekend. I was like, oh, God. Please don't make us wake up to this travesty on Monday. I thank God. I love your hair, by the way.
Hiyo ni mambo ya nyumba. Hiyo ni mambo ya nyumba. Mbona unaleta national TV? Njoroge.
Karibuni sana, and thank you so much for joining us. As you can see, we are the trio ready to kickstart your morning. Welcome to the show. My name is Samuel Njoroge.
Yeah, since I'm in the middle.
Been
Oreo
orange.
here, the cream of the Oreo pack.
Actually,
right
you're the
now.
blue
Yeah.
and we are the grays. So
Yeah. Hua. Anyway, Regina Manyara, glad to have you on board this Monday morning. And I know we are all waiting to hear what President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to say. You know, yesterday we were taking stock of the hits and misses during COVID-19 and the response therein, both at the national level and also the county level. So as we are all waiting to hear if President Uhuru Kenyatta indeed is going to open up the economy, well, that and so much more, including what is happening as far as politics. Yes, we know succession politics has continued taking center stage, and now issues of BBI as well as, you know, the call to dissolve parliament. Are we ready? That and so much more will be coming up as we look at stories that are making headlines both locally, regionally, and internationally. Good morning once again. Glad you can make time.
And a third welcome to Good Morning Kenya. Come okay, we are glad you are with us. I am Jane Wambui. We thoroughly appreciate you for always making time to be with us as we start the week on Monday, all the way through to Thursday when we get to call it a week. And today being Monday, on my end of things, we're going to be focusing on our family discussions. And today we are going to be learning how we can go about handling disappointments. Now, as we are emerging on the other end of this pandemic, you know, so much has been lost and so much has been learned during this time. But how we handle, how we have, you know, received the bad news, the disappointments, the discouragement is one thing that not so many people really know how to do, given, according to at least the research, you know, disappointment is one of the most complex and misunderstood emotions. So today we're going to be having a conversation around that to know how you can go about, you know, picking up some healthy coping mechanisms and help you and I know how to better deal with disappointments. And this goes full circle in marriage, in relationships, if you're not married, that is, if you're just dating, as well as career and any other aspect of your life that, you know, has been affected. So we're going to be giving you some tips and pointers how you can go about picking up healthy coping mechanisms to help you go through this life storm. So we welcome you to be part of that discussion. We want to hear from you. We want to know how your weekend has been, how you are enjoying the program, and you can do so via our main communication platform, and that is Twitter. The official handle is at KBC Channel 1. Official hashtag to use is Good Morning Kenya. My handle is the Jane Wambui, and my colleagues at Sam W. Njoroge and at Ray Manyara is how you can find them individually on Twitter. So we now take a quick breather before we get started with this particular segment in the headlines.
Thank you very much. It is September the 28th of 2020. Yes, the year is 2020, where we don't know if July is in September and September is in July. Well, that's 2020 for you. Now we focus on stories that have been making headlines. We start off with a sneak peek of what we have focused, or rather the scribes have focused on the front page of the Standard this morning. I'll be looking at, you know, what has been given prominence in this particular daily newspaper. Now, the good, the bad, and ugly of COVID times. That's what we have right there. The good, the bad, the ugly of COVID times. Have we handled the COVID issue as we should have? Would we have done better? What lessons have we learned? So it seems as the country is geared and waiting to hear what President Uhuru Kenyatta is going to say in regard to opening up, the economy. There's some areas that were closed, including schools. There's a lot of debate about that. Learning institutions. We're also having, the curfew in place. Bars continue being closed. Well, is this a herald to, us going back to normal times? Are you ready to continue to adhere to the safety guidelines once we open up the economy? So many questions there. So the good, the bad, and the ugly of COVID times. That's the front page of the Standard. And matters politics also continue taking center stage. And tweet storm. Yeah? Ruto in a frenzy. Indeed. A day after sending out 11 tweets on the deep state godfathers and BBI, the DP's allies are now back to dissolution of parliament. Now, as Ruto takes campaigns a notch higher, his critics say he is in a sprinting marathon and will soon be gasping for air. Yeah, Ruto is in a sprinting marathon and will soon be gasping for air. On the other hand, on Twitter, Ruto had this to say: "We have much respect. We must respect each other, even when we have different opinions. The respect must cut across to all. The judiciary is not exempted." As you just follow us on Twitter as well as on other various social media platforms, ponder on that. We're going to be giving details in the headlines in not too long. That's what I have on the Standard.
For some reason too, Mato ameona tu ninieke hii kibuyu hapa. I have no reason why, but it's okay.
Hot people?
Take hot drinks in the morning.
That is why.
Right? But on a rather depressing note, guess what? The Controller of Budget may release a certain report. It's captured on pages 4 to 5 of the Star today. And apparently, last year, Kenya borrowed. Is this how we should be starting our week? Kenya borrowed 1.7 million per minute last year.
Per minute.
That is the Star for you. I mean, literally, here you go. Like Kenya borrowed 1.7 million per minute last year. And it goes ahead to talk about no value for money. And as far as the front page of the Star is concerned, and pictured there is the Controller of Budget talking about how much value we lost as a country when we were busy borrowing 1.7 million per minute last year. God help our generations to come. And also the front page, the headline bears, why Ruto is walking a tightrope over pledges. And you remember in 2013 and in 2017, when the Deputy President was busy talking about how many jobs we will be creating annually, right? The figure was 1 million jobs per year, okay? Then he went ahead to talk about the stadia in Wote, the stadia in Kiambu, the stadia sijui wapi. Okay, he's now finding it difficult to repledge the same pledges as he prepares for 2022. That's why he's walking a tightrope ahead of succession politics come the year 2022. He's pictured there in one of his rallies where Deputy President William Ruto with faithful after an interdenominational prayer service in Bumula, Bungoma County yesterday. All right? So that is the front page of the Star for you. In a bit, I'll be telling you all about COVID-19, the much expected conference that will be happening today, as well as the address on Tuesday by the President, who will be giving guidelines in as far as the new normal is concerned, whether or not we will be easing up when it comes to the COVID-19 restrictions that were enforced in the country earlier on this year, and also the way forward, what protocol will be guiding the country even as we consider reopening of schools next month. All that and much more is what I'll be telling you, but currently ponder on the fact that we borrowed 1.7 million per minute last year. Tutalipia wapi sasa? Honestly.
That literally translates to around 2.4 billion in a day. Wow.
How much in a year? Multiply that by
Times 30, times 12. My goodness.
And then as soon as it lands here, corruption there, I don't know. 2.7 billion lost, 5 billion lost, 7 billion lost. I mean,
you guys, I tell you, we are a rich country. We have not been declared bankrupt after all these grand scandals.
Wait until
God
they
is
start
with us.
coming for national assets, then we will know.
We will know where all that money went.
Yes.
But it's a concern, honestly.
A very big concern.
It's a concern.
All right, now let's have a quick look at the front page of the Daily Nation. The big read right there is in regards to the former PM alliance. The NASA coalition has all but crumbled. The big read saying Raila, the unlikely underdog of 2022. Will he or will he not? Former Prime Minister, who has kept both friends and foe guessing whether he is in for the presidential race come 2022, is going about it in a way that has been termed lame and unfocused, and a way that is not typical of the experienced and aggressive tactician. Does he have a secret card? Well, we'll be giving you details about that particular story, which has been highlighted there on page 4 of the Daily Nation, which has also been very specific in mentioning he'll be turning 76 in January, saying this is now his final shot at the presidency. But is it still a question of a Russian roulette? All right. Now, still on the front page of the Daily Nation, Uhuru set to usher in the new normal as the country awaits for the presidential address, which will be coming after a virtual conference in regards to COVID-19, and high hopes that he's going to reopen the economy. Of course, over the weekend, we have seen a few concerts here and there, so literally people are sliding back to normal if they haven't completely gone back to that particular situation. So we're going to be waiting to hear what the president has to say in regards to that. And another interesting story here is in regards to a report that was put out by Infotrack ranking best and worst MPs, with Emuhaya's Mulemba, who scored the top marks. And they've actually highlighted here top 10 and bottom 10, the best and worst performing MPs, with Gaidhoni wa Mushomba of Kiambu being ranked as the least performing woman rep, followed by Trans Nzoia's Nagambo. We'll be giving you details of who have been ranked top 10 and who are in the bottom 10 when it comes to the performance index, at least according to Infotrack.
Your survey tuko nayo, by the way.
Na tutaianika hapo hewani.
It's on page 2 of the Star. And we'll be giving you details about that. But first and foremost, Regina, what do you have for us?
Now let's focus on issues of your expectations. Yeah, Wanjiku has a lot of expectations against, ahead of President's, the scheduled conference that is to take place today. And before that is the conference, then he announces the way forward. Now, some of the expectations that Kenyans have is the scrapping off of curfew. Now, this article on page 3 of the Standard says that, expectations are high, especially among operators of entertainment establishments who hope the conference will recommend a full resumption of their operations. Yeah. Going by what happened on Saturday, where President Uhuru Kenyatta was actually opening up Nyayo Stadium after it went through, refurbishment. So, he said the resumption of sporting events is a proof of our adoption and readiness to new normal. I want to ask the Ministry of Sports to redouble its efforts in recovering, in reconvening major sporting events. We highlighted, or rather Kenyans picked up on that. And now there's a lot of hope in regard to what the way forward, likely way forward, after the presidential speech that we are expecting. Now, also, some of the other expectations is that Uhuru is expected to announce school resumption dates, and candidates are likely to report fast. Remember, the deadline was to give the task force that was set out was to give a report by end of Monday, while teachers have been asked to report to school on Monday. We'll be doing a spot check as KBC Channel 1 to find out if indeed these teachers showed up to school as directed by the Ministry of Education. Some of the expectations also go within the Kenya Association of Manufacturers that has been captured, just saying that this is a high time we opened up the economy. And captured on page 7 of the Standard is that an anxious nation pines all its hopes on Uhuru. And captured there is KEPSA CEO Carol Karaoke, as well as Matatu Owners Association Chair, that is Simon Kimutai. The business community is hoping that sectors that were closed will be reopened, and the government will embark on facilitating investment to kickstart the economy. What are your expectations ahead of President Uhuru Kenyatta's speech in regard to the way forward? Remember, we're live and we ask for your feedback. Our Twitter handle is at KBC Channel 1 News. Mine is at Ray Manyara. That's what we're having. An anxious nation ahead of the presidential speech on the way forward.
I have a very interesting story on Star today. I'll be letting you know in just a short while. So allow me to take pages 2 and 3 of the Star at a go. Page 2 is all about the MPs, you know, who has been ranked best, who has been ranked worst. And of course, as per this particular daily, it's all about, let me hold this paper properly. And Milemba, Emuhaya constituency is ranked the best performing MP. This is according to a poll that was conducted by InfoTrack. And in a survey, also, Taveta MP, that is Naomi Shaban, emerged the top female performing MP at number 32, and the worst performing is Kiambu County Women Rep, that is Gathoni wa Mushomba, who has been ranked the worst performing women representative, and we've got the details there coming up. Overall, male MPs performed better than their female counterparts, with an average score of 55.4% against 47.7% compared to their female counterparts. So that story there is on page 2 of the Star. Johanna Ngeno Emrua Dikir, Member of Parliament, has been ranked as the second best performing Member of Parliament, and at the Coastal Region, Benjamin Tayari of Kinangop topped with 62.9, while Katib Mwashetani tied with the late Msambweni MP Suleiman Dori at 61.7%. Now let me move to page 3 of the Star very quickly. It's all about the king and queen of condoms as they demystify sexual health kits. I'm talking about Stanley Ngara and Brenda Akwanyi, who have been crowned as the king and queen of condoms. Pictured there, you remember Saturday was the World Contraception Day, and these two were actually honored on Saturday as being the king and queen of condoms. Why were they given this particular crown? It's because they've gone out of their way to work with institutions like LVCT as well as the Ministry of Health, whereby they get condoms and they distribute them to the public. And pictured here are the two, of course. And just to capture but a statistic here, that on a busy day, Stanley and Brenda would distribute an average of 7,200 condoms in a day. All right? 7,200 condoms in a day. Siku moja tu. And one of their top places where they actually have a lot of distribution happening, as captured by the Star, is Nairobi, Malindi, Kirinyaga, Kiambu, and Oyugis. All right? So you will find that story on page 3 of the Star. And he has, now these two have actually got volunteers who have been dubbed as princes and princesses of condoms. I mean, what's happening to this country? All over Kirinyaga, Kiambu, Oyugis, and Malindi, where there is a high consumption of condoms in as far as this particular report is concerned. Captured there on page 3 of the Star, it's all about Stanley and Brenda, who on Saturday were crowned as the king and queen of condoms, as the world marked the World Contraception
day. No, I'm not being
The
dramatic.
suspense.
I'm not being dramatic. I'm simply reviewing the Star. It's page 3 of the Star today. It was
Page
World
3?
Contraception Day on Saturday.
Yeah.
And in an event that was actually attended by Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of Health, that is Dr. Massimo Gangi, it is when these two were actually crowned King and Queen of Condoms. 7,200 in a day in areas like Nairobi, Malindi, Oyugis, Kirinyaga, and Kiambu.
Better safe than sorry.
Are we using or are we distributing?
Ray, stop. Just stop.
Let's go to the Daily Nation.
For that. Just stop it.
And let's pick that main story on the front page of the Daily Nation in regards to former PM's political career. And getting to the details of this particular story is that will his would-be chief opponent, DP Ruto, who is spoiling for a political duel, he's yet to reveal his hand. Now, it is said that will this be his 5th lucky time for Raila Odinga in the 2022 elections? As we get to the details of this particular story, it starts by highlighting the way ODM leader will be turning 76 in January. All right, very specific with that, and it is said that he has one last shot at the elusive State House seat, with 2022 likely to be his final attempt after 4 so close yet so far tries. With just 678 days to the August 2022 polls, Mr. Odinga's campaign is said to be lacking energy that he has previously been known for, given looking at a similar time during the run-up elections back in 2022. Mr. Odinga is said to have had a strong coalition behind him, which ultimately led to the formation of the National Super Alliance 7 months to the poll. Looking at his chief opponent, that is DP Ruto, were he to run for presidency, Deputy President William Ruto and others would-be contenders have already hit the ground running. But looking at Mr. Odinga, fast forward to 2020, after the previous energy that he had during the 2017 polls, looking at this year, Mr. Odinga has only seen his NASA house crumble, but has also avoided any talk of 2022, insisting that the BBI with President Kenyatta was not about his political succession to the throne. And according to this particular article also, political analysts are saying that his fights with the DP are also proving to be detrimental to his quest to the top seat, as it creates a necessary rift between them and exposing him to more political foes as the clock ticks towards 2019, with his especially criticism of DP's hustler slogan when he goes about donating goodies and foodstuffs to youth and churches, which seem to augur very well with the population, and his criticisms of the DP said to be detrimental to his political ambitions, and especially if he declares his presidential bid. But looking at strategy, here they talk of how Mr. Odinga, for his 2022 chances, it appears that it is almost entirely dependent on the president's goodwill, and this comes with the baggage of a lame duck presidency and the talk of a system behind his bid, which is contrast to how things were him back in 2007, in 2013, and in 2017, when he had set himself apart as the undefeatable defender of the downtrodden, the exposer of the truth, and the unrelenting anti-corruption crusader. That is how he has been described in terms of his strategy, comparing now to back, looking at how things were back from 2017 through to 2013 and up to 2017. So does he have a secret card that he is yet to play? That is the big question that many people are waiting to see, if indeed the former premier is going to declare his presidential bid for 2022. Do you guys think he will?
He hasn't already?
No, but
Given the vibe that has
given
been
the
moving
vibe,
on,
the energy says so, but he has not
yeah,
verbally
I mean-
declared his presidential bid.
well, 75% of communication is non-verbal.
But
So
I mean, we are
think he has
Kenyans.
so far.
Yes.
And by the way, Dr. Alfred Mutua, the Machakos County Governor,
Like the way he did.
Sana.
Oh,
Yeah.
good morning, sir. Thank you
Yes.
for tuning in.
And there's someone here who's asking us a question.
Yes.
His name is Moses Kipkoech. Guys, why do Kenyans usually dance opening their mouth?
Try dancing with your mouth closed, then you'll understand.
Like,
It's a
you
Monday.
must bust a move and then you just do something with your mouth.
Make a facial.
Make a facial somehow, somewhat. It's part of the choreography. I don't know,
I
Moses.
think it's just part of
I
the
really
natural
don't know.
response to movement. You know,
we feel.
it's
It's
the
a
way you
feel
can't
good
sneeze.
mood.
It's
Make
the
we
way
feel too.
it's the way you can't sneeze without closing your eyes.
You can do what?
You cannot sneeze without closing your eyes. That's a fake sneeze.
Well, now talking about dancing and why we're doing it, well, you know, people do it with, you know, their mouths open,
Uh-huh.
is that now one of the lessons that we, or rather the entertainment industry, is adopting too, especially cinema, is that drive-in shows have made a comeback. Yes. Back in the day, you know, that was a thing on Mombasa Road, South Be that area.
What has made a comeback again?
Drive-in,
Drive-in.
that you can drive
Ah.
in, enjoy a film, social distancing issues. Now, the much anticipated Kikwetu Drive-In in 2-day concert slated for this weekend follows a number of successful drive-in shows held in the past week. Now, this is a brief history of how far Kenya's cinema or rather entertainment industry has come. It has been captured on page 6 of the Standard this morning. And it says in the 80s, when cinema theaters and drive-ins in Kenya were the thing, there was the Bellevue Drive-In, the Mombasa Road spot with the popular movie lovers who would spend weekend nights watching blockbuster movies like Ghostbusters, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Goonies, Dirty Dancing, or even Top Gun. I don't know which films you've watched among that. At least I've watched actually all of them. So yeah, so this is what is happening right now. You know, at a time when, you know, Kenyans are really expectant of the president's speech in regard to the way forward, well, now something good has come out from this COVID, especially in as far as the entertainment industry and film is concerned. Now we're doing drive-ins. I hope this is something that we can actually take through post-COVID, because you can imagine the congestion and, you know, if you've gone to a cinema and you're watching a film, and people are giggling either in front of you or at the back, you know, when they're giggling, you're like, shh, you know, you miss important parts of the film. And there's no pause, rewind, there's none. So these drive-ins, I think, they also create a platform to socialize, though distance is kept because each and every person is in their vehicle and all that stuff. I think it's kind of nice. You can actually chill under the stars. Being the romantic that I am, I think this is a good thing that has come up with the COVID.
I am one of those gigglers.
Can we count on you, babe? Like you can treat the three of us to an
Sure.
experience?
Sure.
Like as soon as the president addresses the nation tomorrow, this weekend, that's a
Yes.
plan?
Under the moon, under the stars. Yeah, okay.
But be warned,
Bring
Ray.
the popcorn.
Be
What?
warned.
Okay, I'll bring the popcorn. Jane, what will you bring? Drinks?
Me, I'm one of the gigglers.
No, gigglers. We are not doing gigglers.
I'm sorry. Umeona hiyo? Kai.
Those that always spoil the mood.
Wale wa kushtuka na kumwaga popcorns.
I know.
Apana, we want people who can enjoy a good film. We will laugh after.
No.
But before then, we take a short break. We'll discuss who's going to be doing what. What
Drinks.
Jane?
Absolutely.
Milk and juice.
Subject to discussion. We take a short
On
break. When we
caution.
return, we're going to be looking at how the major roads are looking this morning. Do not go away. We'll be right back.
When your booty got show me now.
Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times.
Full 180. Crazy.
Trago y ella la botella. Let's go.
Ha, I needed some with some bopping.
Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you.
Choro, 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 choro. Te pago, te pago, mo, te pago.
Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe.
Pequeña katoto, camini pequeña, pequeña katoto.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
They are lying. You do not understand. They are misleading you and using you as you are one of them. Now you are a Prince Ashok. Stop thinking like a common person.
Emperor, the physician whom you are looking for has disappeared in a very mysterious manner.
So you're here. I've been waiting for you.
We need this win, Wanjala. You have to win.
They are fearless, yet friendly.
I hope auna machungu after ile game ya mwisho.
I'm allowed to be concerned about you, Wanjala. I'm your wife.
I will take good care of you. Fierce, yet fair.
Pa combo sasa. Pop. Soza kidogo. Pop pop.
Firm, yet faultless.
You embarrassed mom. All of us.
But it would be nice if someone look out for me too.
You don't listen to me.
Because you always want to tell me how to.
Jemo unadu nini hapa?
You are embarrassing me.
Kona, Kenya's daily drama.
Taina train ya tona muhimu sana kwa life yangu. Kwa hivyo vile mimi nafanya hapa ni upuzi.
Naweza kukusaidia kujua ni akina nani?
Mimi siwezi chukua msaada kutoka kwa Satan.
What is this?
It's a make or break chance.
Your fun, fabulous, full team of Kona. Every fine weekday, right here on KBC Channel 1.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Oh, son.
Mother.
Oh, my darling. Are you okay?
Yes, Mom.
Did they hurt you?
A little bit, but I'm okay. Don't you worry, huh?
I thought I was never going to see you
No,
again.
Mom.
Why does it hurt so much to hear that Ramon was found? Francisco does not deserve any of this.
My love.
El paraíso
In love with Ramon.
Welcome back. It is exactly 24 minutes to 8 a.m. Let's have a quick look at the roads before we get to continue with this segment in the headlines. I'm sitting in for Doreen Aranga, so let us see if I will be anywhere near as good as she is when it comes to looking at the roads this morning. So let's start with Langata Road. I'd like to go as far back as the Bomas of Kenya roundabout, right there on y'all's screen. Let me zoom in a bit. Looking at Langata Road, my people coming from Rongai, you'll have a breeze. It's not looking that bad, but starting from that particular roundabout at the Bomas of Kenya, both sides of the road look good. Those who are coming into the city and also going away from the city, looking good. Nothing to report at that point. As you continue on with Langata Road, approaching the Langata Cemetery area, both sides of the road looking beautiful this morning. Remember, when you talk about the different colors on your screen, green means it's a go. Literally what the traffic lights mean. Green is a go. Orange means jitayarishe kusimama. Red means stop, and purple is, or rather maroon, is a complete standstill situation, parking lot, aka parking lot. So looking at Langata Road, so far things are looking good, looking beautiful. We like color green. This is the Langata Police Station roundabout. Of course, you slow down there because of the bumps and the ramps that are there. But aside from that, both sides of the road are looking good as you go past the areas around Langata Hospital. Looking beautiful this morning, going past the Southern Bypass overpass on Langata Road. Nothing to report there. So if you haven't left your house and you are around, or rather you use Langata Road to get to your place of work or your place of business, so far so good. Of course, this change of color that we are seeing right there is because there are bumps at around this point, so that is expected. Around the 1824 junction, there's a bump right there, so that is why there's a slight change of color. But aside from that, continue still with Langata Road as you approach the areas past the Sunshine School, going down past the Wilson Airport Junction, past Western Hotel as you get to the T-Mall roundabout is looking beautiful. So far Langata Road is doing very well, and looking at the stretch between T-Mall roundabout up until the Madaraka roundabout, bits and pieces of stretches where of course the color changes. This means you're slowing down a bit, but nothing that will keep you there for too long. And also looking at the stretch between, let me zoom that back in, the stretch between the Madaraka roundabout and the Nyao Stadium roundabout is that is now where you're going to be having some bit of traffic, and that can also be seen using Aerodrome Road, which connects Madaraka roundabout to the Bunyala roundabout. Total chaos at that point, and that is also the same situation between the Nyao Stadium roundabout up until the Bunyala roundabout. So that is how the Langata Road stretch is looking. But an alternative for Langata Road is Mbagathi Way. Let's have a quick look at Mbagathi Way before we get to look at Mombasa Road. Looking at Mbagathi Way, as you join Inakwanga Breeze, as you join the road, Mbagathi Way, but as you continue with it, as you approach the areas around High Rise, that is now where traffic begins to happen, the happening of traffic, if that is correct. It begins to become prominent around that area. We have bits and stretches where it moves on swiftly, but for the greater part of the time that you are going to be on Mbagathi Road up until you get to the City Mortuary roundabout, you're going to be there for a hot minute. So Mbagathi Way is not a good alternative at this point. You can just choose to continue Langata Road up until the Nyao Stadium roundabout, but if Mbagathi Way will help you get to your place of business or your place of work in good time, please feel free to do so. Now let's have a quick look at Mombasa Road, and we go as far back as the City Cabanas overpass. Areas past that need traffic, my people. Areas past the City Cabanas is just gridlock. So you're going to be there for a hot minute. But looking at the City Cabanas overpass itself, it's very busy this morning. All those guys who are coming from the Airport North Road side of the divide, trying to join Mombasa Road is going to be hectic. Traffic is almost at a near standstill as you get to join Mombasa Road. And this is the situation as you go past the areas of Imara Daima. That's the Imara junction right there. But if you're moving away from the CBD on Mombasa Road, you're going to be having quite an easy time at it. But looking at those guys who are trying to make their way into the city, we are now at the Imara junction, and it's looking busy. It opens up a bit as you go past the General Motors junction. As you approach the Panari area, you're going to be having a good time up until you get to the Southern Bypass. As I always say, Southern Bypass is a go. Is a go. So feel free to use it if it will help you get to your place of work or business in good time. There on your screen, that is the Southern Bypass Junction overpass / underpass on Mombasa Road. But keeping up with Mombasa Road, as you approach the Elias, woo! the areas. Hey, ulimi na telesa inawambia nimetoka wapi. As you approach the areas around the Bellevue Junction, it opens up a bit, but past the areas of Capital Center, it's a breeze up until you are literally about 200 meters from the Nyayo Stadium, the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. That is now when you will start having some traffic, but this is understandable as you approach the roundabout. Again, looking at the stretch between Nyayo Stadium and Bunyala, it is busy for those who are trying to make their way into the CBD. The stretch between Bunyala and the Haile Selassie roundabout, also busy this morning, and that is expected. And also looking at the stretch between the Haile Selassie roundabout and GPO roundabout, also very busy, and that is the situation as well from the GPO roundabout to the University Way Junction. We have a quick look at Thika Road before we get to call this particular segment a segment up until the next link up segment, as Doreen would say. Let's now go to Thika Road, and we can go as far back as, let us see, the TRM junction around areas of Roysabu iko wapi? Bado hatujafika. Right, here we are. Areas past that is looking good, green all the way, as you can see on your screen. That main green stretch on your screen, that is Thika Road, looking good. Right there, let me just expand that a bit. That is the TRM roundabout. Watu wa Roysambu tunapatana hapa mkitoka Kasarani. That is where we gather. And looking at Thika Road, both the main road and the service lane are looking good this morning if you are using Thika Road to try and get into the city. Mambo iko shwari past the Safari Park Hotel. As you go all the way to the areas around Garden City, of course, there you're going to have some bit of slowing down because of the ramps that are there, and the service lane as you try to get off the road and get back onto it past that overpass at Roasters. But from there, Thika Road inakuwa maneno ingine. As you can see on your screen, it literally comes to a standstill situation. These are the areas around the GSU headquarters, and it is heavy with traffic. It is expectant with traffic. Very, very heavy with traffic at this time, and that is the situation all through and through and through past the areas of Survey, through and through past Utali Hotel. As you continue on with Thika Road, going on up until the areas of Muthaiga, still heavy with traffic, and that is the situation even as you approach the Pangani Junction and try to get down to the areas around Globe Cinema roundabout. So there you have it. That is the situation on the roads this morning, and that you can actually see as you go to the Globe roundabout. Itakuwa a situation. It's not ital, as our brethren would say. So that's how the roads are looking this morning, at least the three main roads, Langata Road, Mombasa Road, and Thika Road. So we will be right back with, we'll be back with another link up segment at the top of the hour to let you know if the situation would have changed or it is still the same. I'll try and look for alternatives for you as just to help you get to where you want to get to this morning in a good time. But for now, we go back to the In the Headlines. Do keep it here. This is Good Morning Kenya. We'll be right back.
Have you on board if you're joining us. This is Good Morning Kenya, definitely the best way to start your morning. We just had a traffic update from Jane Wamboy there showing, well, Langata Road is doing quite well, other areas aren't doing so well, but we'll be keeping you updated on what is happening on our major roads this morning as we continue with this particular broadcast. Now back to matters of national importance, and we want to go a little bit international. Being the 28th of September, it is the World Rabies Day. Yes, now Kenya joins other countries in commemorating the World AIDS Rabies Day. or rabies, depending on, who taught you English. Now, the day is set aside to spur efforts towards the elimination of this fatal but preventable disease of men and animals. Now, according to statistics from the World Health Organization, is that we have two kinds of rabies. We have the furious rabies and the paralytic rabies. Indication from the Ministry of Health says that there in total, in Kenya, we have 200 rabies deaths, and annually documented in between 2014 and 2030, elimination of a human rabies strategic plan. Now, just to expound on what those two types of rabies, their symptoms and their exhibits down. The furious rabies exhibits with hyperactivity, and death occurs within few days of cardiorespiratory arrest, while the paralytic rabies accounts for 20% of human cases and is less dramatic, though it takes longer to manifest. Now, further on, this article on page 18 of the Standard highlights that, what doctors have to say in regard to that issue. Now, one field officer says that in humans, the symptoms are dizziness, making sounds, and aggressiveness, and this can take up to a month before they show. And for animals, once it shows signs, you just have to let it die. Well, we're talking about issues of the global pandemic that is COVID-19. Then today happens to be the World Rabies Day. What inroads have we made as a country to ensure that, we do not lose people to this both animal and human disease? On average, there are 2,000 rabies deaths annually. The ones that are documented. If you grew up in the 70s and 80s, you remember there was this dog called the T9. Yeah? Yes. Well, now today marks the International Day, World Rabies Day, and just looking at strides that have been made, especially for animal lovers, is something. You're looking at me. Sam, did you hear of the T9? Just asking. Yes.
We did call it T9, though. It wasn't that polished. We're calling it T9.
T9.
Okay, yeah, it's the World Rabies Day.
That's the one you're making reference to? Sasa tuko hapa. And then, you remember, guys, I told you, like, on the front page of the Star, the Controller of Budget has highlighted, I don't know whether these are worrying statistics or we are on the right trajectory. I mean, you are the judge. Hashtag Good Morning Kenya, because Kenya borrowed 1.7 million per minute last year. A moment of silence. There we go. So 1.7 million per minute last year. And the statistic I just outlined right here on the front, on the 5th page of the Star, and how much the country has been borrowing since 2013 when the Jubilee government came into power. In 2013, we borrowed 1.89 trillion, 2014, 2.3, then 2015, 2.9, 2016, 3.6, 2017, 4.4, 2018, 5.3, and 2019, 6.7. All right? Then the total debt compared to its total economic growth in 2013, 39.2%, 2014, 44%, 2015, 48%, 2016, 53%, 2017, 57%, 2018, 56.2%, and 2019, guys, you want to hear this? 62%. All right? In terms of reservicing these particular loans, 2015, 2016, we paid back 466 billion. 2016, 2017, we paid back 417 billion. 2018, okay, I don't know whether this is an error in as far as 2017, 2018 is concerned, because wameandika that we paid back 649 Kenya shillings, but I believe this is 649 billion. But 2018, 2019, 870 billion, while 2019, 2020, we paid back 1.1 trillion Kenya shillings. So those are the figures in as far as our debt situation is concerned. And actually, Robert Shaw does an opinion piece on the Star today, talks about Kenya being in a debt cycle. Like we borrow to repay, then we repay, we borrow. Hiyo ndio imekuwa maisha yetu. And then as far as the money lands here, corruption right, left, and center. At times we don't even break even for the projects that we want to do, but we still, hang on debt. Tumenyongwa tu hivyo. So that is page 6 of the Star for you this Monday.
Kenya at the forefront, yay?
Yeah, sorry?
Kenya at the forefront.
Yeah.
Now, I want us to look at this. There's an interesting story here on the county's news pull-out segment of the Daily Nation, and this is what is happening in Kilifi, where a man aged 81, he has just won a 24-year legal battle to reclaim his land. 24-year legal battle. This just gives you questions in regards to the justice system. Now, this is Mr. Mohammed Sadiq, who resides in the United Kingdom but has been living in Kenya just trying to pursue his piece of land, which has been in court for the last 24 years, and it was just recently made a ruling on. And he was also given a compensation of about 3.5 million Kenya shillings as general damages to the lost years. Now, there are the individuals who are involved in this particular piece of land saying that they had possessed this land illegally and over the years used agents and other illegal ways to just take full possession of this land, and they had actually gone ahead and built on it. And they have now been ordered to demolish any building on that particular piece of land and do so with immediate effect, because what they did, how they acquired that land was illegal. Now, there are 19 individuals who he has been contending with for this particular piece of land. But I mean, guys, 24 years, and then you're given 3.5 million as compensation in damage for lost years.
Well, let's not dissect the ruling, but I'm learning a lot from that particular story, Jane. But 24 years is not mean fit. You're going after something.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very sure there are people watching us this morning and they've got matters lying in court. And the imagination that it could take you 24 years to get justice, we don't mean to slow you down. We're simply saying that the situation within our judiciary is what it is. And at times, as much as we're going to say justice delayed is justice denied, patience pays. So for me, kudos to that man for bearing the brunt for 24 years and being in a position now to come up and say, you know what, I've been there, done that, and this is the result. I guess for me, that's the take home. I don't know. Mhenga, tasema nini?
24 years and then you're given 3.5 million as opposed to what you would have done with that particular piece of land in 24 years.
I know.
And now you are 81. What is the most you can do with it? If
Right
you don't have
here?
like people who would,
I'm sorry.
succeed you to help you.
But let's hear what Mhenga has to say. You know, Ray has
Hengua.
this habit of,
Regina,
anatusikiza kwanza and then
anahengua.
anahengua. So over to you.
Hengua.
Chambilecho.
Guy, how do you complete that particular msemo? Chambilecho?
Wahenga.
No, as in that hiyo yenye umesema saa inaisha aje?
Gani hiyo sasa?
Hiyo chambilecho something
Sindio,
something.
si ni chambilecho
I forgot.
wahenga. Hawakupaka sijui chupa mafuta waliponena 1, 2, 3, 4 and you can see our chambilecho is right in the middle, so
Tupake mafuta kwa mgongo wa chupa.
My goodness, I just pray that your Swahili teacher isn't watching.
He's not watching, guys.
I honestly hope
Go
and
ahead,
believe
Ray.
that he or she is not watching this.
Take
particular
2.
program. Now, in regard to that particular issue,
Uh-huh.
it highlights, the shortcomings of the Judicial Service Commission. And I remember when the CJA was giving his speech, that is Maraga, at the time he said that the judiciary needs to go digital, so that they can fast track how some cases are being handled. then if he's already in his 80s and it has taken him 24 years to get justice, I think this man did not do it for himself. He did it for, his children and the children's children. Because as we all know, we are inherently African, and for us, we believe that land is something that we need to leave for our children. That's why everyone is thinking and investing in the real estate land and such. And that's why it's said that land is the only asset that appreciates with time, tangible. Let's not look at stocks and such. So 24 years, it points to the resilience of this man, and it also highlights on the delays in serving justice in as far as land issues are concerned. And this brings me to a story that has also been captured on page 18 of the Standard this morning, and it talks about a report by the ad hoc committee on the Ngati Farm Alternative Dispute Resolution. Yes, those who come from Naivasha area, Nakuru County, know about this issue. Now, for years, more than 581 individuals from the Maasai and Agikuyu community have clashed over the subdivision of 16,708 acres in a dispute that has dragged in court for years. Yes, dragging in court for years. Now, in 2004, the case was, however, resolved by the Court of Appeal, which directed members of the Agikuyu community to get 12,000 acres, 131, while the Maasai got 4,207. However, now this is a report that was being handed over by this ad hoc committee. Now it says that a big shot to return the land that they grabbed. Apparently, now to make this issue more, to just give it more dynamics, is that senior government officials and politicians in the current and previous regimes stand to lose hundreds of acres of land they grabbed in Naivasha and Nakuru. On her part, Chief Officer in charge of land, Juliet Moihenya, said the process of fresh subdivision would start in 2 weeks, and she noted that the issue of the Nakuru-Narok boundary, which neighbors the land in dispute, would also be addressed in the ongoing survey. Matters of land, the land question, this is something that we've not adequately addressed as Kenya. This case is quite take a while. That is a 24-year decision that has been made after 24 years. I think we need to make changes in as far as the judiciary is concerned in, dispensing, and giving justice. Justice delayed is justice denied.
Or making changes, whether or not we need to. We've always said that land is an emotive issue. That is the description we usually throw behind it. And it is a question that has been dealt with in various reports in this country. There's somewhere gathering dust, but we hope that something will be done about it. Now, we need to take a break because it's 2 minutes to the top of the hour, but the society section of the Star features people like Ali Kiba, who has called out Harmonize and Diamond in his latest track, Mediocre. Have you guys had a chance to listen to Mediocre?
Not yet.
Not yet? For real? All right. And also, Shix Kapienga is there talking about a jump cut in her life. Okay. Like she was not ready to leave radio. That move that happened at Hot 96. You will find that in the society section of the Star, as well as CS Tourism. That is Najib Balala telling the young people to take marriage seriously. All right? Envision to have a partner and not a slave in your marriage. That is what the cabinet secretary has got to say in as far as that is concerned. You see the smiles on the...
I'm like,
you see what's happening right there?
I want to remind you, Sam, that it is Monday, and when you talk about some genres of music, I think you also need to take into account that there's some people who were born old in the wrong generation.
They were born old.
Yes, they were born old.
I would hate to be born old.
Yeah, I'm an old soul. So unless you're talking about Rod Stewart or Ismail Lowe, I'm lost with what you're saying. I am totally or some Mangwana, if you're going Rumba. What did you just ask me? Diamond and
I take time to listen to Ali Kiba. And especially this new track. It should be featured on Thursday.
Okay.
Mediocre. Because it comes with a lot of underlying messages to people like Harmonize and Diamond. So that is the society section of the Star for you this Monday? I was just trying to light up the moment.
Now, just as a note, I think we bring the headlines into a close. Just is to remind that President Uhuru Kenyatta is scheduled to preside over the National COVID-19 Pandemic Conference today, and that is before he announces the way forward in regard to various containment measures. KBC Channel 1 is going to be bringing you, that particular conference live and that particular announcement on the way forward. Remember, we are calling for your feedback and your expectations ahead of that particular announcement by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Keep
and
tweeting.
Iron Politics is coming up next.
Yes.
Yeah.
Keep
so
tweeting.
Join me for that.
Blow by blow.
Blow by blow. Yeah, matters of politics coming up, especially issues of 2022, succession politics, BBI and such.
KBC, in collaboration with the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development, is broadcasting enhanced out-of-class learning on radio, television, and online. Catch the lessons every weekday on KBC Channel 1 from 2 to 4 p.m., on KBC English Service and 15 FM from 9:15 a.m. to 5 p.m., and Radio Taifa from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. KBC English Service, Radio Taifa, and 15 FM are also available countrywide on the free-to-air Signet digital TV platform, or log on to www.kbc.co.ke for live streaming, or download the KBC Online app on Google Play Store. Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, ensuring learning no matter what.
Exactly 4 minutes past 8 a.m. Another quick look at Mombasa Road to see if things have changed before you get to leave your house. If you haven't left already, let's just have a quick look at Mombasa Road again. Langata Road, I can see the situation has changed from around Southern Bypass Junction, but we'll be getting to that in the next link-up segment. But looking at Mombasa Road, again, as far back as from the City Gabanas Junction, busy. Nothing has changed from that point. Going past Imara Daima, past GM, past Samir, down to Panari area, still heavy with traffic. Of course, there's a stretch there between Panari up until the Next Gen Mall. You'll have a quick minute or two of no traffic. Branch off to the Southern Bypass, which also seems to be getting busy at this point. But at least the Southern Bypass is always a good alternative. But looking at Mombasa Road, you will be there for a hot minute, going down past the areas of Bellevue as you go past Capital Center, all the way down to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So Mombasa Road hasn't really changed. If anything, the situation is getting worse. As you can see, the Southern Bypass alternative is also getting a bit busy because clearly most people are opting to go for that right now. But if it'll help you get to your place of business or your workstation this morning, feel free to use it. But you will be there for a hot minute. So we just want to look at Mombasa Road for now. We'll be back with more of what is happening on the different roads this morning. But if you have to leave the comfort of your home, remember you can stream us live. Do take us with you. Our official, you can follow us on our website. That is www.kbc.co.ke/KBC-live. That is how you can get us direct. Take us with you if you have to leave the house. Do let us know how things are looking on your end of things. Whichever road you're using this morning, we'd appreciate how things are looking from your end, to just share with the rest of the nation, to know how, to just let them know what to, which alternatives to use and which roads not to take on this morning. And of course, you can do that using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter, at Jade Wamboy, at Sama W. Njoroge, and at Ray Manyara are our individual handles. And our official station handle ever remains at KBC Channel 1. Once again, that is www.kbc.co.ke/KBC live. That is how you stream us live from our website. So do stay with us. We want to get started with the day's discussion. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this very quick breather with more of Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you so much for being a part of the show this far. In case you're just joining us, good morning and welcome to the only way to start your day, Good Morning Kenya. My name is Samuel Njoroge. The hashtag is Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1. Politically speaking, we lay perspective on issues that have been shaping political headlines over the past 7 days. It has been an eventful weekend, if for no one else, the Deputy President, who has been on a tweeting frenzy. What's happening? You know, we need to understand that and much more. And joining us to get that straight is Advice Mundalo, joining us live in studio. Political commentator. Advice, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
You can see Daniel Orogo there looking at his watch like, you know, it's about time. And I'm having time for the first time to host Eric Makoha, who's joining us still for this conversation. Karibuni sana, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And you can also be part of it using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 at Sam W. Njoroge. Let us know what your thoughts are about the discourse that we're just about to begin right now, as well as have your question, and all that will be part and parcel of the conversation that we're beginning right now. Now, Advice, apparently, as per the controller of budget, last year we borrowed 1.7 million per minute. Hiyo pesa imeenda wapi?
Hapa Kenya.
Wapi hapo?
You know, that's an unfortunate situation, Sam. Like,
yeah.
We borrow too much, but then the impact on the ground, the Mwananchi doesn't feel the impact.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of the biggest challenges that we are having, because we are actually stealing more than we are investing. That is the problem. We are taking most of the money that we are borrowing into our pockets than into projects that can be felt by the people. Because with all that kind of money, honestly, we are supposed to be a very stable economy.
That's true.
We are not supposed to be having the issues that we are having today. We are not supposed to be talking about a parent struggling with fees. Like parents are so skeptical about schools reopening because people don't have money. But when we are with that kind of money that we are borrowing, we are actually supposed to be very stable. But unfortunately, we are not, and that is the sad affair of the state of our nation.
It is what it is.
Sure.
We remember the headlines last year about Kimwarer and Orogo, and up to date, we're still pursuing the answers, or have we moved on swiftly?
Well, I think I also agree with what advisors just talked about. A borrowing nation, you can't borrow your way to development. I mean, it's economically, that kind of policy is not sustainable. And you see, one of the most interesting things that happens that, what follows the headlines about borrowing is massive, public wastage, money that goes down the drain that are not really utilized. So wherever, you know this very well, wherever you see any headline about, borrowing, the next on the next month you'll see a headline. The follow-up story, you'll see the corruption, the massive amount of plummeting of public resources. But again, I think as a nation, these are events that should be seen or watched closely vis-a-vis, the kind of political terrain that we are now facing. Because where would you expect this colossal number of money to go if it's not for individual pockets, and for what?
But we know where it has gone, Daniel.
Yeah.
We bought wine for 7 million last year. You remember that?
Definitely.
We have been taking tea worth 4 million Kenya shillings this year.
We know
where the money is going.
And the byros that costed, a number of march that could sustain many people. So I think for us, the frenzy is about, I like the kind of message you opened up and say, even musicians have begun to question the issues about validity, content. So I think it's not only coming into music, but the kind of mediocrity we are seeing even amongst our political class is fathomable, is really questionable as we proceed.
But a more critical question to you, Eric, is the fact that we've seen the CBK governor, that is Dr. Patrick Njoroge, talk about the need for us to establish a ceiling. Then anakuja anatuambia, by the way, we no longer need the ceiling because our economy can handle it. But can it moving forward?
Thank you so much. First of all, let me start by saying that the issue of borrowing is a national concern. And to some extent, we can say it's a global concern, more so in Africa. Now, it is only unfortunate that in Kenya is where the government draws a budget that it doesn't have money for, then goes back to Mwananchi to start looking for this money. Very, very unfortunate. And that's why we come and find ourselves in this state of, too much borrowing, less investment, as my colleagues are saying. But hey, let's come and say this. The purpose and the intention of borrowing that the government is doing, where we are getting this money from, let's say IMF and World Bank and blah, blah, the purpose is very clear: for investment of infrastructure, for investment of better hospitals, blah, blah, blah. But now the problem is that the people in the office, whenever they have an access to these funds, they divert the purpose of this.
But why is it that always it's the people in office? Why have we normalized people in office? Since Moi's era, I mean, come to Kibaki's, now Kenyatta's, we've always had an issue with the people in office. Fine, the people could have an issue, but do we have loopholes within the institution, that is government, that allow this massive loss of money to continue?
Thank you. I think that the thing should be the government need to instill so strict measures on funds management through the various government institutions, like for example the CBK drawing up lending policies, KRA putting down the making people be compliant at the same time. The problem is integrity. I think 2 weeks ago I talked about integrity. Is that when I say of people in office, because it's unfortunate that we're electing people properly, people not proper in the office. So at the end of the day, they end up misquandering this money. They end up using it anyhowly.
All right. Let's move on from the debt conversion. Yes, Daniel,
well,
you have something to say?
Well, I think you've asked a very critical question.
Yeah.
And it's not the first time we have been always singing about prudent use of resources and management of the funds that we have. The most critical questions you put on the table is, why has it always been this way? I mean, the government, the Jubilee government, and you remember some times ago when the president said that we are going to do audits. All public servants will be exposed to vetting, and they will run through a system that will make sure that all those who are held accountable are sent home, or rather are suspended. And then we saw a very populist movement. We saw populist measures, like everybody, like almost all public servants were sometimes sent home, so that auditing, auditing was done by that time.
Yeah.
But again, we are back to it. So I think the most critical thing that we need to ask is, wherever any public servants are into position, do we stick to the service charter? Do we really be prudent? Do we really follow the oath that we have sworn, that we are going to be accountable with the office we hold and promote the ideals and the values of leadership and integrity? So in all these questions that we are asking, then, do we reflect what we are not? One thing that we are asking is that are we sticklers to to the very documents that we say that we will uphold once we assume the position that we hold?
And what happened to that audit advice? Watu walifukuzwa wakaenda home.
Yeah, the problem is that most of what we do in this country, we most of the time put forward the PR gimmicks in it than the reality in it. So we did that for the sake of the camera, for the sake of the headline, and then after the headline was done, the action was also done. And we also have to debunk this theory that we keep driving, that we keep making Kenyans believe that the people who steal their resources are actually elected leaders. Elected leaders in this country control less than 1% of the resources of this country. And therefore, we should be able to know that the people actually who defraud this country are not necessarily these elected officials. The executive is the one that has the chunk of the money in this country. When you look at scandals from the treasury, those scandals with the Aurora and Kimwere and all these things are not under elected leaders. Elected leaders are busy running CDF, and most of the money that they are squandering is mileage allowance. It is not a lot of money. They are controlling 1% of this money. So sometimes we castigate elected leaders too much. Not to say I'm defending them, but I'm saying sometimes we castigate them too much. It was even unfortunate for me to hear Nelson Harvey call elected leaders, he described them as people who cannot even read a newspaper. That was very unfortunate, because we cannot be able to just take all of them. We cannot just take all the elected leaders, then throw them into that gutter.
Yeah.
Those guys are 353 in number. Just by the fact that we can have about 2 or 3 of them who make headlines for all the wrong reasons, which I would also want to blame the media, so that they like covering what makes news. And I know that one I have touched your own nerve. But, I'm okay. But sometimes the media also wants to really cover the people who are making news for all the wrong reasons, and ignoring some of those members of parliament, the honest leaders who are doing a very good job. Like you saw the ranking recently, and the Mhaya member of parliament was number 1.
Yes.
I think that was the first time he was even being covered by this news. Yeah, most of the time.
Covered him before.
Most of the time.
When he was at Coupet.
Exactly, that's what I wanted to say. He was covered as Coupet more than he's covered as member of parliament.
And for wrong reasons.
When we want to cover members of parliament, we go for Moses Kuria insulted someone. Oscar Sudi talked about the other person.
Actually, Johanna Ngeno is number
2. So sometimes we have to really debunk this narrative that every time that Kenyans hear about lost money, they quickly think about elected leaders. Let us think about the executive. Those are the people who are controlling the resources of this country.
And could this be the reason why the deputy president tweeted 11 times yesterday?
Talking
about deep state?
The deputy
What's happening there? Let me hear from Eric first.
Well, I think the deputy president is just facing what we call some fear. He fears that come 2020 he will not win the ballot. All right? But going back to my friend, my learned friend, I think it's high time we stop the issue of generalization and we address individual issues in terms of if somebody is responsible for a mistake, let him be handled as a person, but not the because at the end of the day, when you generalize this issue, you now kupaka matope the whole system. Now you say in general, now you'll hear people saying serikali ni mbaya, but generally at the end of the day, it's not that the serikali ni mbaya, but some few individuals in this serikali ndio mbaya. Secondly, on the issue of accountability, you see, most people in these state offices, they are not accountable. Most people. And the report you're saying about what came out in terms of constituency performance, I'm telling you there are some MPs who are trying their level best. Where I come from, and I'll not fear anything to speak about it, because I feel that I come from Westlands, and the Honorable Tim Wanyonyi is doing a very great job, and he was ranked one of the best in the country, if so to speak. Thank you. So what is happening with, I think the Deputy President is just facing what we call fear of election. He feels that dishing out money will make him earn votes, not realizing that at the end of the day, people need to see the agenda.
But is he raising pertinent issues? I mean, take a look at the 11 tweets, and I'll sample some of them. Let me just read some of them. And one of it is, Wacheni madharau and insults. These hustlers are not thieves. They are not stupid. They are not lazy. They deserve an opportunity, support, encouragement, and inspiration, which they lack. He went ahead and said, for your information, 16 million Kenyans, majority of them below 35 years, are jobless, and they are hustlers. The Jubilee government's housing program can create 2.5 million jobs. Now, forget the sterile employment creation, blah, 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 rhetoric that has been since independence. Hakuachia hapo, akaangusha ingine. We want a discourse on real jobs for millions of Kenyans, not for 5 positions for tribal chiefs. Jobs for ordinary citizens. How many jobs again? In which sectors and when? These are the urgent questions we need to be posing. Positions can wait kidogo. What could have driven the Deputy President to write all this?
You see, let's look at this Deputy President. When he talks about the issue of creating jobs, let's look at for how long has he been in the government? And all this time that he's been in the government, what has he done, even from his constituency where he come back to Kenya? When we were facing 2017 general election, he made a lot of promises. So as my friend said, it's high time people stop doing what we call PR.
But what's the alternative?
If
you look at Raila, for example, how long has he been in government? If you look at the president, how long has he been in government? When you look at other leaders, how long have they been in government? Let me hear from Orogo first.
I knew you were coming to me.
Is longevity even the issue here?
We discussed partly last time on the panel, and it's interesting we are coming back to is, the Deputy President, like my colleague has said, has been in the government, serving as a member of parliament, and again as a Deputy President, and knows how the government works. Even as a minister. So first of all, let me say that in all his social media vitriol, he understands where the problem is. And it is important that, sometimes we give the devil his due. I say that when he mentioned, the issue about creating jobs, when he mentioned about the issues about the hustler, the question that people should accord him the decency of hearing is that, when he mentioned this thing, he knows what he's talking about. And is raising a very pertinent questions, like you said. Now, the controversy comes in when you ask now, this is a person that has been in the government for a long time. Why did he not leverage through the position he has to provide for the same things that he's talking about? We have been in this panel saying that, sometimes his persona, vis-a-vis his position, do not allow him to delve into this thing as he wanted to do.
But
we
what
are
would
here.
stop him?
We are here, and we discussed last time that, is he even getting the resources he needs in his office, to promote the actions of a deputy president.
But they
you know,
say
that
he's
first
in
of
the
all.
shadows.
Now, in this opportunity that we are asking the deputy president, and I say this very well, any political leader who feels that the deputy president, you know, is being demonized for supplying wheelbarrows, we talked about in last time this panel, and border borders, and washing machines, you have, and building churches, you know, and fundraising. Everybody has the opportunity to do that. The Right Honorable Prime Minister has the opportunity to do that. Every other person, every contender has the resources to make sure that in his own or her small way, he can supply the same wheelbarrows, he can supply the same equipment to the hustlers. So I don't think it attracts the vitriol that we are seeing along the political scene.
Fair point, and in all manner of interest, when it comes to balance advice, a similar poll was conducted by Infotrack back in the day, and as Eldoret North Member of Parliament, he was ranked as one of the best performing. He went ahead, and we credit him as a Minister for Higher Education for introducing some of the reforms we saw within institutions of higher learning and also TVET institutions in this country. He is touted as a man who has been at the backbone of Jubilee's political success when it comes to elections, both in 2013 and in 2017. Is he then within his own right to pose some of these questions, and is he calling out on the godfathers and deep state, as they're popularly known as? That is for advice.
You know, Sam?
Yes.
If there is one thing I question in the deputy president, is maybe his potential to lead a country. But if there's one thing I don't question about him, is his ability to be a politician. And the deputy president is a smooth politician. He knows he knows how to go about his politics. But in terms of leadership, it's purely another different ballgame. Because just on the tweets that you read, I don't take the deputy president seriously when he talks about tuache madarau, let us stop insults. That tweet started with him saying, "Loads of poverty." Like on the same tweet that he asked people not to insult people, it opened up with an insult. So I don't take him seriously.
An insult or a reality?
You know, the words "load of poverty," to me, I take it like you really can in the capacity of a deputy president. That is not what I expect of you to call others, whether you agree with them or not agree with them, because it is such kind of visual language that starts leading us towards a very dangerous path.
Lakini sasa advice, vitu kwa ground zikoaje? Are people poor?
People are poor.
Is poverty a reality in this country?
Poverty is a reality.
How else would he have opened up the tweet? And I'm not holding brief for the deputy president. How else would he have opened up that tweet?
I don't speak for him. I think Dennis Itumbi would be at a better position to answer that. But then you really don't open a tweet by calling other leaders loads of poverty. It really doesn't make sense. But then in terms of him and the wheelbarrows and the rallies and the tweets that he's doing, all those things, and I don't know why my colleagues are saying, you know, the deputy president has been in government. My friends, the deputy president is in fact, the deputy president is government today.
The reality
as we
of
speak
that is
today.
You see, the reality of that is a bit,
the deputy. You know,
one person at a time.
He is the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya. It is not about he was in government. Why are you talking about the past? These things that the deputy president is talking about today.
Be valid advice.
The things he's talking about today.
He has said that he's in the shadows.
Exactly, Sam.
He literally showed up at the party headquarters. Na hakukuwa na mtu wa kumpokea.
Sam. And that is why, if the deputy president is not in government, he must come out and stop being called the deputy president. For as long as we are calling him deputy president, and he's earning a salary of the taxpayers of this country, he should be providing solutions to this country and not being sitting on the table of complaints. Remember, Sam, Honorable Ruto has been in this thing we call a shadow for the last about 2 years. So for the last 6 years, he has been a very powerful deputy president. That is the time that we should be able to account for these 6 years. And let me see how he has improved the life of Mama Mboga and Boda and those people that he keeps calling hustlers. Let us stop being political in this country with everything. The deputy president has just picked on a political narrative that sells him the most.
But you
there is
say
nothing.
he's a
There's
smooth politician.
and that's why
That's
I
what I'm
said
wondering.
I don't disagree with him in terms of his politics. But let us not be hoodwinked to think that then that is leadership.
You know what, Eric, just let's take a breather because we need to pay some bills and invite you to talk to us online. Hashtag Good Morning Kenya at KBC Channel 1 at Sam W. Njoroge. The discourse continues after these messages. Keep it. Good Morning Kenya.
Say all kind of things about you. We them on. Shake up. Need to mush you and done to mush you. When your booty got show me now. Baby, one time. Bossy baby, give me 2 times. Full 180. Crazy. Trago y ella la botella. Let's go. Ha. I needed some with some bop in it. Mamacita, where you at? I've been trying to reach you. Choro, 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 choro. Get the pago, get the Pokemon, get the pago. Katoto shepu awe, ayawe, ayawe. Tekenya katoto, kamini tekenya, tekenya katoto.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
They are lying. You do not understand. They are misleading you and using you as you are one of them. Now you are a Prince Ashok. Stop thinking like a common person.
Emperor, the physician whom you are looking for has disappeared in a very mysterious manner.
So you're here. I've been waiting for you.
We need this win, Wanjala. You have to win.
They are fearless, yet friendly.
I hope hauna machungu after ile game ya mwisho.
I'm allowed to be concerned about you, Wanjala. I'm your wife.
I will take good care of you. Fierce, yet fair.
Pa combo sasa. Pop. Soza kidogo. Pop pop.
Firm, yet faultless.
You embarrassed mom. All of us.
But it would be nice if someone would look out for me too.
You don't listen to me.
Because you always want to tell me how to...
Jemo unadu nini hapa?
You are embarrassing me.
Kona, Kenya's daily drama.
Taina train ya tona muhimu sana kwa life yangu. Kwa hivyo vile mimi nafanya hapa ni upuzi.
Naweza kukusaidia kujua ni akina nani?
Mimi siwezi chukua msaada kutoka kwa Saitani.
What is this? It's a make or break chance.
Your fun, fabulous full team of Kona. Every fine weekday, right here on KBC Channel 1.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Oh, son.
Mother.
Oh, my darling. Are you okay?
Yes, Mom.
Did they hurt you?
A little bit, but I'm okay. Don't you worry, huh?
I thought I was never going to see you again.
No, Mom.
Why does it hurt so much to hear that Ramon was found? Francisco does not deserve any of this.
My love.
In love with Ramon.
Welcome.
Embakasi Utawala tuko locked. Ungem Utanyahururu Kasuku Massive.
Jeshi ya Nyeri, Coast Maua na Kuru kwa locked mbaya.
Kigumo Ward na ambao wote wako ndani ya KBC Channel 1.
Akulaliki Wednesday bila the ref.
Mbotela Auta Idara Kitengela.
Kiambu County 33 Pipeline Meru anawakilisha.
Rongai Maboxa pale go down. Karatina Auta Mlolongo wana enjoy show. Lare Sub County Auta Githurai 45. Lanet Barracks tuko ndani yake. Okongo Auta Carnation Maragwa Seti Nairobi.
Fika wako locked mbaya sana.
Watu wangu wa Nakuru Ngwaro.
Auta Gilgil live kutoka Mazeras Bahati Massive. Embo Thika Massive. Siaya Shikambi Kakamega Bungoma County.
Busia Boda
Kisumu City.
Malindi yote iko ndani ya the ref.
When I'm in Kenya, I tune in to the rave. Get your mind brave, focus, conscious.
Kenya,
East Africa.
Right.
Keep it locked.
The noises you hear, we are back on air, guys. Gentlemen, we are back on air. All right. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Kenya this far. My name is Samuel Njoroge, and we never took a break as much as we told you that we are taking a break. The discussion has been very much alive in this studio in regard to the 11 tweets that were churned out by the Deputy President. And the question is he running a marathon, and is he sprinting to a point whereby he may not keep up with his breath ahead of 2022? Eric.
Thank you so much, Sam. This is a very tamaki question that we've been arguing here. Personally, I think what Honorable Ruto is doing what we call publicity, and forgetting his role as a deputy president and starting what we call campaigns in terms of, running up and down with rallies, Mikokoteni, Boda Boda. But a pertinent question that I want to ask is, if at a deputy president level, you are the eyes of the country, you are the foreseen president of this country, you are going around giving out Boda Boda, you are going around giving out Mkokoteni. My question is simple. If you give out Boda Boda, what will governor give out?
And
what will MP give out?
You do realize,
what will MCA give out?
Eric,
yes.
You do realize wheelbarrows in this country are very expensive. We procured some at 100,000 Kenya shillings just some years back. Wheelbarrow si kitu tu ovyo. Ina come through too mbaya. Ama ni aje advice.
But let me we really have to debunk this narrative about wheelbarrows and boda bodas for the following reasons. Mm-hmm. Number one, we should not brand the Kenyan youth as people who basically only deal in wheelbarrows, boda boda, kazi kwa vijana. That is always the narrative when we want to talk about the youth. Every time we talk youth empowerment, we want to talk wheelbarrow. And the youth of this country have gone to school. The youth of this country need real-time opportunities for them to be able to grow.
On the same advice, I'm still on you. Can we use the same argument on Kazi Mtaani?
I even mentioned it, Sam, because I've told you, Kazi Mtaani, the wheelbarrows that William Ruto is giving, and all these things, they basically brand the youth in the wrong narrative. And as young people, we should not sit on this panel and champion such narratives. There's a day I was telling a friend of mine called Kariuki Ngunjiri, and he's one of the biggest supporters of the deputy president, and that is okay and is democratic. But I told him that, a time will come when the deputy president will become president of this country, and the role that will be given is to wash cars in State House. Because what we are branding the youth of this country is we are giving ourselves a very myopic view of things. Mm-hmm. And we should not therefore encourage a sitting deputy president in this light, because what the deputy president is supposed to do, and I have no problem with his donations, but you see, he can do those donations at a personal level, at his foundation level. But as a Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, we expect him to provide tangible solutions that work holistically for the country.
But
We expect him, Sam, Sam, you're not letting me finish.
Okay, no, you're taking too long.
Yeah, you're not letting me finish. Anytime you're talking about the Deputy President, Orogo is boiling up. And that's why I told you people to give Orogo water. Because he needs it. So we cannot be able to move a country through donations. Donations have never moved any country from third class to first class. The Deputy President is supposed to be working on things like for example, the youth empowerment programs.
Projects.
Not launching projects. First of all, he must create them before he launches them. Those are the things that we need.
That is not
we need industries, Sam. We need things that will provide real jobs for people in this country. But donations and wheelbarrows and whatever, those are PR stunts. Those are gimmicks that he can do, and that is for his own personal politics, which is okay to do. But as a Deputy President,
this guy is taking too long.
But as a Deputy, Orogo is just Orogo doesn't have any tangible
fairness advice. You've just said what the Deputy President is supposed to do, right?
Exactly. In his capacity.
Where does that leave him in the context of Executive Order number 1 of 2019? Orogo, over to you.
No, when you ask me a question, let me answer. You can't ask me a question, then take it to Orogo.
Vis-a-vis what you're talking about.
Yes.
Just let Orogo answer.
Now, Sam, let's really not apply double standards when we are dealing with the Deputy President's issue. Now, one, you've realized that while he is declared that he is going for presidential, position, and all of a sudden everybody is trying to say, you know what, you're the Deputy President, keep to the track of the government and do what the government want you to do as the second principle second principle after the president. But you realize that there's a covert mission that is taking place, that there's a launch of BBI and there's a campaign for 2022. So in other terms, one hand is telling him to shut up and concentrate in government duty that is curtailed by the executive order that you just mentioned. On the other side, other people are engaged into politics. There's pure double standards when we talk about the DP. Atwoli is busy making very stinging statement against the Deputy President.
Atwoli is not.
He is not supposed to respond to that.
Why
Each and everybody is speaking about it. People are making phrases. Listen, my friend. People are making phrases about the Deputy President, but we are expecting him to keep quiet and to follow through. One thing that I keep on insisting, and I've mentioned, in his capacity, you shouldn't be even asking if this is the work of an MCA, if it's the work of a governor. The governor has been there. He's seen the gap, that the governor is not providing what he's supposed to provide.
There is no gap.
He's gone ahead. He's gone ahead to, listen, my friend. He's gone ahead to provide for what these guys are not providing. All of a sudden, everybody's up in arms. I think let's give the devil his due, and let's really promote the ideals of what we should be talking about. He is a politician. Everybody is playing politics. Why is his politics very different? And I've asked this panel, can you tell me one thing that you feel the Deputy President is doing wrong? I haven't received that question. I haven't received the answer to that question until now.
You see, my brother Orogo, let me tell you something. First of all, as much as Deputy President is doing all these donations, he needs to understand the country cannot run on donations. That is very clear. Now, as he
can benefit from donations.
You see now the way...
No. You're interrupting my argument. You see, the country cannot run on this donation. Second question is, let's say that the Deputy President is elected in today, all right, as the president of this country. Will he be able single-handedly, pull out all the resources he has to finance the budget of Kenya? Will he? Because at the end of the day, he is as a person and he is as a politician. Now, the pertinent question here, my friend, is he needs to understand his role better before engaging in some of the things. Yes, there is politics. But as right now, let me ask, if I look at the Deputy President, will I be looking at him as a Deputy President or a future 2022 President?
Well, you cannot say that. You say that the country cannot be run on donations.
Yes.
But it can benefit
from donations.
Can it?
And is it helping?
See,
donations?
The percentage.
We are borrowing 1.7 million in a minute.
You see, in one of my finance class, my lecturer told me that debt financing is one of the greatest risks you can ever take in investment. And when the country borrows too much, it means that the GDP of the country is going down, if I'm not wrong. Now, when the GDP of the country is going down, now that's where the role of executive, as you're saying, comes up. What does it need to do to salvage the case? So before we even start exchanging the issue of
empower people.
Now, let's come to real
And
empowerment.
community groups.
Now, let's come to real empowerment, my brothers. Real empowerment is, I am a graduate, a second class upper finance graduate, right? You are bringing me Mkokoteni. That is wasting my knowledge. I've wasted over $500,000 in school.
I think Sam, you just mentioned that in his capacity as the Minister of Higher Education, I mean, he enrolled programs that, would make sure that, everybody, even at the TVET level, would really get quality for his education. He's not, at that point, he had realized that most of the people who are leaving tertiary institution, there's a mismatch in terms of skills.
Was it Synovate or Infotrack that ranked him one of the best performing MPs as Member of Parliament for Eldoret North?
Infotrack.
It was Infotrack, right?
Yes.
So, again, take it up.
My point is this, my friend. The Deputy President, the role he has right now, is that he needs to ensure that they work correlatively with the President, irrespective of what, because the oath of office bounds him to that.
Eric is betraying continuity. Your camera is right here.
No, I was actually answering this guy. He raised some concerned question that I was addressing him.
Go ahead.
Okay. What I'm saying is that when we talk about youth empowerment, first of all, is try look at these youth and look at their potentials and see how well you can empower them. So before you come and bring me Mkokoteni, ukiniletea Mkokoteni leo na niuze kesho, have you empowered me? Yeah. If you bring me a Mkokoteni today and I sell it tomorrow, have you empowered me? You have not. So basically what I'm saying is the Deputy President need to stick to the core business of oath.
Okay. And whether or not what he's doing is working, I mean, we've discussed him for the past, 40 minutes now, so probably it is working. But gentlemen, I'd love to draw your attention now to yet another matter. This survey that was launched by Infotrack. It was announced yesterday about the best and worst performing parliamentarians that we have in 2020. Advice over to you. Did Milemba deserve the award he got yesterday as a Muhaya Member of Parliament?
I think first of all, I would wish to congratulate the members of Parliament who were able to make it to the top list. But then whether they deserved it really is not a question I would be able to answer outrightly, because when we were told that they did a very good job, it didn't come along with what exactly they did. So we were given the numbers and the ranking, but we were not given the reasons behind the ranking. Which I think maybe it is something that maybe the media would want to follow up and then give Kenyans exactly what is it that made Omboko Milemba number one, what is it that made Didmas Baraza, my friend from Kimilili, on the list. So I think we need to then look at it holistically. But then we also need to understand, Sam, that when we talk about performance of someone as a member of parliament, it is not necessarily synonymous to how then that person would be able to provide to perform at executive level, because performance of a member of parliament is mostly political, and that's why you can be able to have people like my friend Didmas Baraza ranking very highly, but then if you just take that performance then now transfer him and make him president, you might end up having a problem. So it is not necessarily synonymous. So when you take I'm using that point to take it back to what you talked about, the Deputy President and being ranked by Infotrack.
I don't know.
Those two things are not
they are interlinked.
They are not interlinked.
Okay.
The performance of a member of parliament is highly political. It is the political performance of a member of parliament, which they are doing and which is okay. But then when you get to the position of president, what we expect from you and what we expect from an MP is totally different, because when you are the president, you are running the executive. You are running the country as a whole. You are not just about building toilets and putting roofs on top of schools. There are two different things.
Yeah, I think I agree. I agree. Until he drew the deputy president into the discussion. Now, I agree. I agree with what advisors talked about. You know, when you read through the report by Infotrack, I think when you're studying a report or a research that is made, there are other things that provide a base for critique. You know, the methodology and really the sample and all these. I think for the first time, I haven't had Infotrack coming, you know, clearly about how do they do these, you know, these samples and all this. But that said and done, you know, the work of a member of parliament really constitutionally goes much of representation and maybe political activities in the National Assembly. But also other component of it that probably I think Infotrack was looking at, that is the you know, the prudent utilization of the national government, you know, constituent development fund, and how that is expected of them to deliver with what they get. So I think there's also been a very huge debate about this fund. How is it equally distributed within the constituencies, and how vast a constituency is that a member of parliament can use, you know, the national government constituency development fund, you know, to drive the development agenda. All in all, I think we congratulate the members of parliament who have been mentioned. It's quite interesting that again, the Kibra member of parliament, with very, you know, short time within his power, he has been able again to be ranked as one of the best in Nairobi, the constituencies in Nairobi. But we have to agree that, you know, when they perform, we applaud. Now, the methodology is what we really need to begin to converse about. How was that?
About methodology. Yes. What is it about Emuhaya? You remember Wilbur Tichilo? He held that position for a very long time as Emuhaya member of parliament for being the best performing. Now we have Milemba taking over from him as we question methodology. Emuhaya or Emhaya? What is happening? Let me hear from Eric first, advice. Then I'll come to you. What's happening here?
Well, when I look at methodology being used with Infotrack, it's the same as methodology being used with Sinovet and other research institutions in place. I think they're authentic. And first, let me congratulate all those MPs, more so my Westland MP, Honorable Tim Wanyonyi, personally, where I come from.
Now, Wanyonyi mentioned sana.
Give credit where it deserves.
Lakini sitaki watu waite hayo politics sanitizer. Go ahead.
So, I think the key thing is, allow me to speak about this. Most MPs, when you talk about their performance, maybe some may think that they're being based on the political party politics they're doing. In terms of, I am ODM, this is Jubilee, this is Jubilee Asili, this is ANC, and all that. So basically, depending on the methodology they used, if they looked at the party, if they looked at the individual as a person, or if they looked at how well the National Constituency Development Fund has been used. So with Emuhaya, I can't really say much because he has tried his best, let me say so, and let me congratulate him too.
Okay.
Yes.
Advice.
I think we have always had two ways in which we have ranked members of parliament in this country. And sometimes some firms have used their legislation mandate. And when that is used, we have always seen other names, because we have those who have looked at their performance in terms of how many bills have they presented to the parliament, how many times do they even contribute to motions in parliament, which is their principal mandate. But when I look at the list that was given yesterday, I think that was not the criteria, because I don't see people like even the Muhaya, a member of parliament, contributing much in parliament. I don't see Didmas contributing much in parliament. He contributes more in funerals. So I don't think what was used was about parliament. It was more about their work on the ground, which I know, like some of the ones that I can be able to know, like Didmas, like Tim, I can know for those ones they have been, like when you look at Dindi Nyoro, actually even when you look at his Facebook, you can be able to see there is a lot of work that he tries to do. And so I think that is what was used, the work that they have been able to do on the ground, which I think is what should actually be used. And you talked about why Mhaya, and I wanted to give an answer to that there is something called precedence. And once this right precedence is set in leadership, there is always a way in which the person who comes after will just follow through into the footsteps. And that's why you have seen Kibra. You've seen the member of parliament who was there, and the one who has now come in. You see that there is a semblance of more or less the same thing, because something was set up in the right trajectory. Once something is set up in the right trajectory, it is not so easy for you to just deviate away, because it really calls for you to be very abnormal to then run away from what is normal. And so I think that is the reason why we see these constituencies topping the gear. So we should not really try to make it look like it's a way in which they have paid or it's a corrupt scheme. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think they're just constituencies that are doing well.
Another thing is
Eric, don't betray continuity here.
Another thing that I can add on what my brother is saying is that I think right now the nation has woken up and they have put these leaders under watch, under monitoring. So it makes the leaders now deliver than earlier before, the way they used to, dishing out handouts and forgetting about the development agenda. Yes.
Yeah, until we forgot about Gatanga. You remember Gatanga was performing, and then the predecessor, I think the person who took over. We never heard about Gatanga. I think we should really ask what happened to that,
Gatanga, right?
Wonderful constituency. But again, I wish that when we go to elections, always, that these citizens remember, this ranking. The voters remember the performance of their members of parliament or those who are vying for those positions based on the agenda of the performance. We really forget. Voters really forget that, these are the most critical ingredients when one is considered, as a candidate or somebody who is aspiring for that positions. There's also the wave that also comes and people forget. The development vis-a-vis the kind of money somebody is dishing out. So my advice is I really beseech
your advice to advise.
Not really the electorates to always consider these important ranking or these important ingredients when we really want to elect our leaders into position.
Plus, remember, actually, truthfully speaking, CDF is doing a lot of work in this country. CDF is really doing a lot of work, and therefore that's why sometimes I don't like the aspect of just vilifying members of parliament sometimes and calling all of them garbage and saying they can't read newspapers. Trust me, CDF has done a lot of work in this country, and we must be able to appreciate that.
So, Honorable Joseph Ngogi Ndwati, you're the current Member of Parliament for Gatanga, so we'll be probing and see how the ranking has been. But I have a question here for the panelist. It's coming forth from a gentleman known as Wayaki Gango, and he's asking, now, for the panelists arguing that Kenya cannot be run on donations, what better alternative has been offered to us, Kenyan youth? Advice.
Unfortunately, not a lot has been offered to the Kenyan youth, but something has been offered to the Kenyan youth. And unfortunately, even us as the young people, we've really sometimes not really taken what we are given to the best interest, and that is why we even disappoint those who try to provide opportunity to us. Because we have seen some of the Kenyans have elected some of the young parliamentarians, and it's good that some of them are able to even rank on such lists. We've seen the government of President Kenyatta giving opportunity to some of the young people like the CS and the Ministry of Education. We have Zach Kinuthia there. We have several names of young people that have cropped up within this time. Now, the question now is the impact that they have had.
Felt
now that is now what I'm talking about, Sam. That the problem is, once they were given those positions, what then became of the impact? Because now the impact looks like it is more or less not there. Now we have the National Youth Council in this country, a state-run organization. Now what is the impact on the ground? And unfortunately, when more young people continue being put in office and the impact is not felt on the ground, that is the more we continue
Yeah,
to,
yeah.
the voter and the country generally starts thinking, then maybe young people are not ready for leadership. When we start having instances like the young parliamentarians, we hear a young parliamentarian, the one who shot someone in Westlands. We hear a young parliamentarian is the one who was found disobeying COVID rules and he was found drunk.
In
you
fact,
see, these things.
Jaguar and Babu, were fighting in parliament.
Fighting in parliament. Now, those are some of the problems that then we have. Yeah. But in terms of the Jubilee government making a try to provide some opportunities to young people, I think they have not done it to the extent that we would have wished, but they have done something.
Yeah.
But now the problem now is whether the young people, given the opportunities, have then been able to ensure that the ground is able to feel them and know that they deserve what they were given. Yeah. Now that is where we have.
There's a very glaring difference between giving young people positions and allowing them to have latitude and progress in the position and taking authority of the position that they're having. So those are two different things. And I agree with that advice that we've seen a number of young people who have gone for leadership positions.
Yes.
But the question is, the terrain, the system itself cannot really allow them, to implement what they really want to implement. Now, the person who asked the question, I think he's asking two things now. If you're vilifying the deputy president, what options do you have? I think that is the simplest thing. The caller has just asked, and it's the same thing I've asked them. If you're seeing wrong things, then what are the alternatives?
Then let's
what are the alternatives that are there? Because
maybe
it's providing
Eric
us
has an alternative. Let's hear from him. Eric.
I, being a youth, I can say that we have alternatives that the Jubilee government has tried, though, as my friend said, not to the maximum. But also, it comes back to we as youths. Are we taking up the advantage? Are we taking up the available resources to work with? Because in this time that we are right now, we are facing a lot of problems, more so with the pandemic. We as you see, Sam, there is no way I'll just sit in the house and wait for for these donations, even if I'm to do donation to come to my house. All right. So also, I'm also telling you to stand up also.
And youth is relative in this country.
And take advantage of the case.
No, we're just saying youth is relative in this country.
Yes, youth is relative, but what I'm
18 to 35 has nothing on us.
What I'm saying, Sam, is we cannot run on donation, but at the same time, youth
we can benefit from it.
But we can benefit from it.
To a smaller percentage, yes, we can. But also, youth need to stand up and take their part as a youth.
And we need to give those alternatives some.
We need to wind up because it's the top of the hour. And we need to pave way for family check that is coming up next. I'm just trying to wrap this newspaper because sasa naona kazi yake imeisha. Inaweza funga nyama officially. Yeah, so thank you so much for watching Eye on Politics. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Advice. And thank you, Orogo, for coming through for the show. We invite you to keep the interaction going on online as much as it could be done on air. At KBC Channel 1 is the platform to use. My name is Samuel Njoroge. The show is taking a breather. Jane Wambo is coming up next. Good morning.
Excuse me, who is this trying to call me with his gadget? Please, before you call me Professor Ouma, you should have a telecommunicative device. My friend, we professors, we do not walk, we locomote. We do not drive problem boxes, yani probox.
To get Professor, bonyeza star 811 star 759 hash. Dial star 811 star 759 hash.
Thank you so much for staying with us from that political conversation. We now want to move on to matters concerning the family, but we so appreciate you for staying with us through and through. I see Alex Wanyandara, thank you for tuning in. Bob Kaugi, thank you so much. Culture, John, thank you so much. Mark, thank you for tuning in. Koros, I see you. Albert Mwaniki. This is Marik. Thank you so much for tuning in, as well as Sisi. Thank you so much for following the conversation. We welcome you to continue staying with us through and through until we get done with this conversation. So right now, switching to today's topic of discussion, as I had mentioned earlier on in the intro, but if you are not with us today, we're going to be talking about handling disappointment and how we can do so in constructive and healthy ways, given we are now emerging on the other side of this pandemic. So much has been lost and so much has been learned during this time, but how have we been doing that? We have seen an upsurge in the number of cases of domestic violence being reported. The number of people who have lost their jobs are countless. So how are we journeying through that process to just deal with the situation and alternatively resort to ways post this pandemic that are constructive for us and not destructive in any manner? That is what we want to talk about, and we also want to hear from you. If you have lost your job, if you are going through a breakup, or just what you have learned during this time, we want to hear from you. Do feel free to share with us your thoughts using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. My handle is Jane Mamboy, and across all social media platforms. So I will be sampling your views as we proceed on with this particular discussion. So helping us with this discussion this morning, we have in studio with us Njoki Mwangi. She is a family and marriage counselor. Karibu sana Njoki.
Thank you. Good morning, Kenya.
Good morning. Always a pleasure having you.
Thank you. I love being here.
All right. And also joining us via Zoom is Fred Abok, who is a mentor and a motivational speaker as well. Abok, are you with us? All right, we'll be checking in with Abok in not too long. But let's just get straight into it, Njoki. Now, I was just, as I was going about my research for this particular issue, I came across a statement that said, disappointment is one of the most complex and misunderstood emotion. As a counselor, do you support this particular statement?
Yes, I do, because I think what we need to realize is disappointment is part of life. Mm-hmm. And we cannot say we're immune from disappointments. I mean, they will come at one point in our lives. So the difference is, to be able to understand, is it really within my control, or is it something that I could have avoided, or is it something that really I have no control over? So if you're able to actually separate events and situations and really be able to analyze and know that this thing, I could not have done much about it, but this one, probably, there's something I can do and learn about it. But of course, what makes it very complex is because then emotions come with that. And many times we're not able to separate our emotions from the events. And now it becomes very difficult. It causes stress. The issues you're talking about, divorce in marriage, suicide, ideations, all those things bring it up.
Now, looking at the fact that, disappointment is still a very hard emotion and complex emotion for most people, do you think also the way we were brought up and the way we are bringing up kids could actually have a hand in how we handle disappointments and other life storms in this when we are adults?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
What's the relationship there? Help us understand.
In our formative years, usually it's about how you're interacting with your parents, first and foremost, or your caregivers, and your caregivers could even be the DMs, the domestic managers who are there. And then after that, you're going to school. Children are going to school even as early as 3 years. And their formative years, you could say up to seven years. So how it is handled, first and foremost, from when a child is young, how was the relationship? Were they securely attached to their parents?
Yes.
What was it? Did they feel secure? Were there love? Did they feel love in that family? So you'll find that children who actually, they grew up in very critical families, feeling that there were disappointment, nothing really good was coming out of their lives, you'll find that they will have difficulties dealing with disappointments in life. So of course, I affirm that, and I believe that whatever happens when children are young, not just young, even growing up, the interactions affect how they deal with disappointment. And it's interesting because most of the issues that people come up with, and I said the other time, Jane, that we go even to the genogram and ask, how was your relationship with your parents growing up? What do you remember to be the funniest moments growing up? What was your worst moments growing up? And you find that the issues that people are struggling with, even 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, are actually issues that happen to them when they're very young, in primary school, in preschool. So I totally support that. I agree with that research.
All right. And still looking at, the role that upbringing has to play when it comes to how we handle life storms, there's also this debate about, as parents, of course, we want the best for our kids. And you find sometimes we shield them from each and every adversity in life, such that growing up, they have never known any hassle, any trouble, and they consequently don't know how to react when they are in situations where they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Is this also setting our children up for some challenges when it comes to how they handle their lives much later?
Oh, yeah, it does. And you'll find that, you see, when children are growing up, especially like when they're learning to play and socialize with their age mates, sometimes us as parents, you can be a bit protective. You don't want your child to be hurt.
Yeah.
So you hear a child fell probably outside, they were playing with their friends, and you go running and you're panicking, or you seated somewhere with your buddies and you're just having fun, and you keep on saying, where's the baby? Where have you gone? Don't go far. So this child doesn't feel free to explore and learn. I mean, if they fall, I think when we were growing up, my mom, even if we fell and were playing, she would really ignore us. And until she realizes you're really hurt, then you start realizing, oh, I can actually manage these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a way that if we protect our children so much, actually we're working against them. There is an inner strength that comes just learning from challenges. That's being able to navigate the storms of life makes people stronger. If you're so controlled, so hidden, so just in that place, it's just the life around your home. When you go out, life can really become difficult.
It can. And now there's that one group, and then there's another group who have just grown up experiencing all sorts of adversities. They haven't known what it is to just live. Having 3 meals in a day, that's a luxury. So they are so used to having it hard, such that when they have good, they don't know how to handle that. How do we also just try to bring some sense of balance for this different category? The ones that are so exposed to the hardships of life, they don't even appreciate some of the good that they get to experience because they know this will not last. Another disappointment is coming.
Yeah, and it seems like most people in such categories, they always feel like they're just holding their breath until the next...
Just waiting, for the next disappointment.
It's like actually you're already self-sabotaging because you're expecting something will go wrong. And many times when people come for counseling and they're having issues, they feel there's no self-worth, they are struggling with their esteem, and you're asking them, what is your greatest achievement in life? And they say, I really never achieved anything. At 40, 50, even 60 years, even 70. And when you start going and breaking it down a bit and you're saying, do you know even just passing class 8 is an achievement?
Yeah.
Do you know even just passing Form 4? And then after that, when you start breaking out into small bits, then they tell you things that they would not have imagined were actually achievements. So I think also being able to celebrate ourselves for the little things that we have done is very, very important. Can we be able to enjoy life at the moment and just say that good is good enough? I'm here and good is good enough. Can I just celebrate this moment where I'm in without really looking forward and saying, let me hold my breath. There's a pattern in my life that things go wrong. Let me just celebrate good now. Good is good enough.
Learning to live in the moment and not in the past or expecting the worst.
Live in the present.
All right. Now, also joining us, remember I had mentioned we're going to be having Fred Abok joining us, who is now with us joining via Zoom. Karibu sana, Fred.
Thank you. How are you doing?
We are very well, thank you. Now, as mentioned today, we're talking about, handling disappointments. And I just want to bring you in at this particular point in regards to, as parents, do you think we set our children for hardships in life when we tend to protect them so much from the adversities in life as we bring them up?
Thank you so much, Jen. At some point, I do set our children up for challenge because you do not protect them so much. You know, life is about discovering yourself, and discovery is about the challenges that goes on in life. And so, you know, when the only challenge is that they can actually be able to experience what they see on the TV, and you know, they have not gone to, they have not been able to expose themselves physically to these challenges, it becomes a challenge to them to experience personal, first-hand challenges in life that can be able to expose them to the realities of life. And so I think it requires a change on the way we raise our children today by exposing them to some of these dynamics so that they can be able to acquire, you know, a whole set of experience on how to deal with challenges in life.
Okay. Now, coming back to you, Njoki, how then do we help our children, and still looking at this aspect of bringing them up, just know how to find a balance when it comes to being overly ambitious and also not being an underachiever? And especially thinking of these two different group categories of children and how they have been brought up. How do you now just try to bring a balance when you are interacting with them in different spaces?
I think one of the things I think I would say is also learn to hold loosely. Just learn to hold loosely to these children. Allow them to be themselves. I mean, all of us are individuals. We have different personalities. Even in a family of 5 children, each child will exhibit different ways they want to do things. So hold loosely, teach them, work with them, teach them, learn what are their interests, what are their weaknesses, and work with them. Instead of really being overwhelming with your own indoctrinations or your own wants. And, you know, sometimes parents, we can be those things of, this is what I want my child to be.
Projecting your life on them.
Yeah, and I start living my life in that child. So really this child never gets to actualize what they are, what their life really is. So also having conversations. Conversations are very important. And you realize that most children who come for counseling, they just say, really, my parents really don't know anything about me. They don't know who my friends are. They don't know my favorite meal. They don't know anything. So can we have conversations even at the dinner table? It's interesting that at the dinner table, either the dinner table or whatever works for you, or breakfast table, that is when children start giving you stories. So you can be able to pick bits and bits of what this child is and be able to direct them in that direction. Some parents actually say they really don't know how to deal with their children. Can you be able to get a mentor that is trusted? That is trusted and they can work with this child.
All right. And Aboka, I also want to hear from you, especially as a parent, when it comes to how you try to just teach your children how to handle disappointments in life in a way that you just make sure that they are not overly ambitious and they're also not underachievers.
I think one of the greatest aspects in disappointment is to train our children to accept disappointment. Because denying disappointment is actually denying the sting. And it locks the room for an opportunity to have an holistic approach on how to be able to deal with this situation. So when they get to accept, the next thing is that they get to adjust, because disappointment creates a kind of an inconvenience in our life, and you know, things are actually not gone on the same. But what you need to, when you get to accept, then you get to adjust. Now, when you adjust, you begin to look at things in another perspective. What is my contribution in this? Or if there was something that is out of me that made this contributed, then how can I be able to maneuver my way through it and be able to bring the best out of it? And you know, when you adjust, the next thing is stop drawing on where you are actually get disappointed. It is important to move on.
Okay.
Moving on has actually been the greatest challenge, because people stick onto disappointment, and what comes in is fear. And so we are a replica of what we went through. And you know what? Everyone has gone through disappointment. And it's important to let our children know that disappointment is part of life. It is actually a feedback on some of the things that actually we've gone through. And so when we get to move on, we get to understand that behind on what we come from, there was a disappointment. And where we are headed on, chances are high that you can still get disappointed. And how then we deal with it? They say once beaten, twice shy. But you know what? Once beaten, twice better.
All right, I like that. Now let's just move on to the next aspect, and this is all about expectations. Now, Alexander Pope once said that blessed is who expects nothing, for he shall never be disappointed. Another one said that, expectations is the mother of disappointment. Njoki, is it really possible to journey through life without expectations in the different spaces that we find ourselves?
I like the one that actually you said, and it's interesting. I came across that caption somewhere about the heartaches, but also realize that very high expectations causes high frustrations. So it's also to be very realistic with our expectations, so that they're not too high or too low.
Yes.
Because also now, if you are an underperformer, you're going to be disappointed in life. But then again, if you put a very, very high scale to yourself, especially for people who consider themselves perfectionists, then that also becomes a source of a problem. I think one of the challenges that people are having actually in life, and even as us as grown-ups, is being able to separate a problem from myself.
Yes.
So that you're able to say that I'm not the problem is actually the problem. I'm not the problem is actually the problem. So being able to say, this is Njoki, and Njoki is not the problem. This is the problem. Which is the problem in the relationship? Could be communication. That is a problem. If it is work related in my career, then I'm able to separate and say, this is Njoki, but in this career, there's something that has happened. Can we be able to pinpoint it out? So that it is not about, I have failed in my marriage, I have failed in my career, I have failed in ABCD. No, it is that particular event that failed or that particular project. So when you are able to externalize that, it is easier to deal with a problem. But when you're taking everything, you're just packing it in a briefcase, and you're carrying that briefcase, it becomes very heavy, you keep on dragging it, and you're never unpacking it. Then why wouldn't you have heartaches?
So what skills do you feel are going to help us know how to better manage our expectations? Given, even a baby has expectations. A baby will see you and lift their hands. They expect you to carry them. And when you don't, they get so disappointment, and they don't know how to handle that. Which skills do you think are going to help us better know how to manage our emotions when we are in situations that consequently end in disappointment?
Oh, there are several. So one of them, accept that disappointments are part of life. Just accept that. Then be able to just separate, as we have said. But rather than that is that every problem, there are several ways of attacking it.
Yes.
So being able to say, I tried A and it didn't work. Can I try B, C, and E? Look at different options of dealing with this problem. Many times people just have one option.
Yes.
And one option is not an option. You need to have several ones so that you can evaluate them.
Okay.
Then, we've talked a lot in this show about support system. Who is your support system? Are there people you can talk to and really be able to speak your mind? Even just talk about the feelings that you're experiencing, because feelings are real.
Yes.
They'll be there and they will go, but when you deal with them, then we'll be able to move on. Who are these people that will listen to you without really judging you? The other time, I can't remember which show we talked about, can we be able to self-soothe?
Self-soothing mechanisms.
Yeah, can we just be able to self-soothe? When you're going through those moments, you're feeling down and sad, what re-energizes me? Can I do that? For me, I do movies, I do coffee. What else do you want to do? Do you want to go for a massage? Do you want to go listen to music? Do you want to go jog? Do you want to, all those sorts of things. Then there's journaling. We need to start appreciating the power of the pencil.
Writing it out.
Can we write it out? And when we write it out, you can go back 1 year later, 3 years later, 10 years later, and you can actually be able to gauge your growth and see that you have really grown. But when you're just there, you're not really sure. You cannot even be able to check the milestones in your life. I think the other one I would talk about is read autobiographies. they're very awesome. I have read several, watched documentaries. This child will be great by Ellen Johnson, the president of, Liberia. She's written awesome things. The Girl Who Dared to Dream by Betty Kekonyo. There are several people, even in this country. Listen to their stories. They just motivate you. What about Thomas Edison? Is it Edison, the guy of the bulb? How many times did he try the bulb? 1,000 times. And he said it was just a step. For him, it wasn't a disappointment. So there are so many. KFC guy, I think, his story is awesome. That recipe was rejected over 1,000 times. How many franchises do we have of KFC in Kenya?
So learn from those who have gone ahead of you.
Read. You don't need to learn from your own mistakes. Can you learn from the mistakes of others as well?
Okay. Abok, I'd also like to get your thoughts when it comes to, learning to manage our expectations and learning to do so early in life so that you don't journey through life not knowing how to handle unmet expectations, and consequently your reaction is always disappointment, and you also don't know how to manage that disappointment.
Great. I think Njoki has actually brought with expectation, there's a requirement to get out of your comfort zone, because just as she say that don't set lower expectations that you can actually accomplish without any kind of adjustment. But also higher expectations are so that when you don't achieve them, you actually can look back and say, I have tried a certain level, because there are some expectations that you don't even realize when you achieve them. Now, the other thing is build synergy. What kind of the partnership? Who's holding on your ladder? Who's standing on besides you? Because there are people who are always speaking negative. They are discouraging of what you cannot achieve. They look at you and they sum you up that you cannot achieve this. Don't you?
All right, we're having a bit of issues there with the book. We're having a bit of issues with that particular link with the book, but we'll be getting him back with us in a bit. But before we get to hear what he has to say in regards to that, I want us to move on to now coping mechanisms that are healthy and ultimately constructive when it comes to how we deal with a disappointment. And Joki, when it comes to acknowledging the situation as the first step, why is that important?
It is very important to be able to acknowledge, because we are all human beings, and sometimes disappointments and hurt and losses really affect us. Yes. So, but in this acknowledging, it is important to be able to understand what feeling is bringing that. So let's be able to identify which feeling is this. Is it sadness that I'm feeling? Is it anger that I'm feeling? When we're able to identify, then it is easier to be able not to internalize everything and deal with that particular feeling that is there. The other thing why it is important to acknowledge is because then you're able to single-handedly deal with that particular option. So that it is not a lot of accumulation of disappointments, but a specific thing that you're dealing with. And one of the things, people talk about SMART goals in their organizations, in their work, business, and the projects they do. But how many people do SMART goals on their own? On their own life? Are the things that I'm saying, you know what I'm talking about? Specific. What is this specific thing? Are they realistic? All those things. So be able to be very, very intentional in working out things and not piling them. Because with time, it becomes so many, as I was talking about the briefcase, you don't even know what issue you're really dealing with.
All right. Now, another aspect I want us to look at is emotional intelligence. And most of us, you find we don't really understand what emotional intelligence is until you find yourself in a situation that triggers so many different emotions at a go, and you consequently don't know how to handle them. You end up just blowing up or just doing the most natural thing to do as human, and it is to just blow up. Emotional intelligence when it and the relationship with handling disappointment. Njoki.
Oh, thank you. So emotional intelligence, for a long time, I think it's something that has been really misunderstood. And we can see most people will react to situations instead of respond to what is happening. And when you find that people are struggling with emotions, you find that they'll introject everything to themselves. And they bring bad feelings. If it's not that, they will project. You'll project it to your children, you'll project it to your workmates. So being able to go back and take time, even just being able to de-escalate, it's not even about the fights there, but can you de-escalate by yourself and self-soothe? Go back by yourself and say, can I just take time to think about what has happened? Because now, if you don't do that, then you find that you'll find yourself in rage, in fights. Even as you're driving the car, I mean, your emotions are all over, or you'll get into other habits probably.
Yes.
Things that probably people would consider antisocial. So just being able, can I take time just to be able to reflect? Reflect. It is very important. Just take that 20 minutes and ask yourself. But it's something that people have to learn. If you don't know it, it's something that you learn. And for our children, to be able to teach them early on in life. When the children are also getting angry in the house, they're throwing tantrums, you can actually tell them, just have a moment, think about it, discuss the emotions, teach them early.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know, when we are seeing children throwing tantrums, we are African parents, una shamora.
Yeah, and that's how we were brought up. And
that's how we've been brought up.
That's also we do it.
Yeah.
But we are learning. And everything we learned can be unlearned and can be relearned.
All right.
And times are changing. So we move on in times. Culture has really changed. We are not those days where we'd sit with our aunties and uncles up country and they would teach us. Dynamics have really changed. So let's try and adapt what it is that we need to and not be so rigid.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, let me come to you, Abok, and still looking at emotional intelligence and learning that, wallowing in negativity is not going to change the situation that you are in as much as you've been disappointed. Wallowing and pity-partying in that pool of negativity is not going to help, and especially for the youth. What do you have in regards to say about that, Abok?
I think setting out yourself into understanding that disappointments occur in life helps you to move out of the comfort zone and understanding that this is part of life. But of course, it's when you, I said earlier, it is important, to move on in a way that reflects the understanding. Hello?
Okay, I think we're still having a few issues there with a box uplink. As we try and get that sorted once more. Joki, just looking at that particular issue again, we tend to wallow in negativity for so much, especially when things don't go our way. How long is too long when you're in that situation to just realize you need to pick yourself up and just move from that negativity pool?
So I think one of the things that we can do, and most of us should just be able to start learning, it's a technique that we can start picking up, even just from now. Negative thoughts keep coming in and out because of disappointment and frustrations. So it's just being able to capture it the moment it comes and change it into a positive. Because what happens with a negative thought, then a negative feeling follows. And if the negative feeling follows, chances are that you'll be down, you feel useless, you feel depressed and all that. But if you're able to change it immediately, capture it at that point, start thinking different thoughts. If you're feeling angry, can you look for something to interject that? So being able to capture it at that point, it is very important. But also another thing that is very important is, can we be able to rewrite our stories? Because sometimes we write our stories and our stories are just negative and negative. So we need to be at a point and say, this is not going to be my story. This could be the book. This is the way this chapter started. But chapter 3 could be different. I could start writing a new script and say, this is what is going to define me. Njoki and her love life. Njoki and her story of her career. Start writing what you envision your life to be, as opposed to what it has been. So start visualizing what this is. And it kind of, when you have such positive thoughts and feelings, it kind of propels you. I mean, you have that kind of happy moment, kind of propels you and motivates you to do something different. It kind of also gives you an inner strength. But also to emphasize that through disappointments, many people have grown. What are the lessons that you're learning? What are the unique outcomes that are coming from there? Because there's always a sparkling thing. Every challenge, you can learn something from it for your betterment.
All right. So it's okay to feel bad, but just don't set camp there.
Oh, yes. It's okay to feel bad. We're human, and humans make mistakes.
Just don't
But
do it
it
for too
doesn't
long.
mean because you've fallen in the mud, now we wallow there. No, no. You can dust yourself and walk.
And move on.
And move on.
All right, before we get to move to the next aspect, I just want to hear back from you, Abok. We are back with him. This issue of wallowing in negativity when things don't always go your way.
Yeah, Jen, wallowing in negativity, number one, only just drain off the energy. You cannot stick in a circumstance for too long. Everyone who has ever made it successful in life has always gone through a disappointment at some one point. Now, getting to understand that moving on is a recipe for change will help you to dynamically maneuver your way out of the quagmire of disappointment and get yourself together.
Yes.
Because you need to realize that on your process of accepting disappointment, there are contributions that even you as an was a attitude. And when you forgive yourself, you tell yourself that it's not particular on me, or there is nothing in me that is unique that makes me disappointed, but I can always make a try again. Just the examples that Joki gave on the other time. Everyone who has ever made it up in life was a disappointment, was a failure at one particular point, but they do not look at the failure. It's about, how do you identify yourself? Because self-identity has been a crisis in many people's lives.
Yes.
People have a misconceived element in identity, and so they want to be somebody. And so if they fail in one circumstance, they tend to feel like that is not them. That is they want to pick up a picture, or they want to pick up a scenario of someone else. But when we get to move on by accepting, then adjusting, then it will help us to, first of all, understand what caused this failure and how can I be able to avoid it next time.
All right. And just on the same breath, you've mentioned one aspect that I was actually going to, and this is understanding your role in getting to where you are in that situation. And I just want to continue with you, Abok. When it comes to understanding that you had a role to play to get to where you are, and especially that disappointing situation, why is it important to acknowledge that fact that you contributed to getting to there?
Now, acknowledging is very important because it gives you an operation dynamic on how to move out of it. Because acceptability is the number one principle that will help you to know what specific role did I play in this, and what other things, what can I be able to change. Take, for example, you knock a down Ivy. Now, it's the car is definitely knocked, but what role did I play? Or how can I be able, was I overspeeding? Was I on foot? Was I ignorant on the rules of the road? Now, when you understand it may be late at that particular time, but not be cautious not to do it again. Now, understanding is a principle that will help each and every person to both real actualization themselves but also to get to acquire the aspect of their environment. And this is very important because we are actually in an environment that how we feel and behave. We also have the ability within us to make that environment be a better place for us to exist in. So our understanding, both are in us and the environment that we are, will help us to be in peace, both with ourselves and the environment that we are.
All right, Njoki, your thoughts as well on this issue of, just taking a step back, doing some introspection, and understanding what role you, as the person who is in that situation, had to play.
Okay, I totally agree with Abok and the sentiments that he has brought. It's very important to be able to acknowledge and take responsibility of your situation, because then if you don't learn from this situation, chances are that you're going to repeat the same mistake. And I cannot emphasize the power of reflection and journaling. That you can sit down after a certain disappointment or a certain event in life and write what you went through. And in the same place, be able to be very candid with yourself and ask, what would I have done differently? If this situation came again, how would I tackle it? That makes a very big difference. But one of the biggest problems is because people take it as a whole and they decide, I'm a failure, I'm this, instead of actually tackling the situation. But even after tackling the situation and realizing your role, it is also very important that you forgive yourself. How will you move on if you don't forgive yourself? So it's very important, even after acknowledging, that you forgive yourself and say, if the situation comes again, I have 3, 4, 5 ways I could handle it differently.
Right.
So already you've set yourself up for success. And even if it doesn't work, if these people have done 1,000 times, what would prevent us? We are enjoying light bulbs because of somebody who had unsuccessful attempts over 1,000 times. And today, it's probably one of the biggest industries in the world.
All right. Now, as we draw the conversation to a close, one more thing that I want to talk about is in regards when it comes to dealing with disappointments, is learning that knee-jerk reactions are not always long-term solutions. In as much as sometimes it might be a good maternal right, but for most part, knee-jerk reactions, are they really a to-go-to response when you are just dealing with a situation that just hit you so badly? Njoki, let's start with you.
Most times when you do those things just at the impasse or very fast, it's because you're running with emotions. Your mind is not even there. You've not really thought about it. And most times, the mistake that you made is likely to come back. Still go back and check. Who goes to battle even without preparing? Can you sit back and check? What are the loopholes? What are the gaps that are there?
Yes.
Yeah, and settle your emotions. Sometimes we run into things because you don't want to get into touch with the emotions that are there. Sadness, worry, anger. Can we first deal with those ones? When you deal with those ones, then your mind is kind of a bit clear to be able to have a direction to move forward.
So going back to acknowledging how you feel and the situation.
Perfect.
All right. Abok, when it comes to knee-jerk reaction, and especially with we, the younger category, we tend to be very emotive when in situations that, trigger so much emotion. So we go with the immediate feeling you are feeling, and consequently, you find yourself in just a vicious cycle, learning that knee-jerk reactions are not always the best responses.
Jen, it's important to understand that life is a journey. And when it's a journey, it's a continuous movement that we need to constantly be focused on to where we are going. Knee-jerk reactions is like putting a full stop where God has put a comma, and now you want to, you want to jump on onto the other side. Now, knee-jerk reaction denies us the opportunity to refocus, because when a disappointment comes, there was a focus on a certain kind of aspect. But now it is for us to be able to get out of the issue, there is need to refocus. There is a need to realign, and there is a need to reestablish yourself. These are a process that requires time. They require a certain limit of understanding yourself, but also the required an environment of grace to forgive yourself of the issues that have actually taken place and get to understand that in the midst of what happened, you are on a journey to a certain place. So knee-jerk reactions are challenging because most of my counseling, you find that someone, for example, is in drugs because they fail in a certain thing, or their marriages is going through a turmoil, or some kind of thing. And so they get into this drinking and all this. But you discover that when it comes down, the person go again back into drinking. When we do a knee-jerk reaction, it denies us the process of approaching systematically onto getting to the ultimate result of our expectation.
All right. And there's one Valentina who's saying, when it comes to dealing with disappointments, when you sugarcoat your situation, you will never grow and be great from it. Again, going back to acknowledging the situation as is and understanding your role in regards to that. Now, Susie also saying sometimes we need to revisit our past to understand how to best move on and deal with disappointments moving forward. Now, as we wind the conversation, Jockey, understanding the role of planning and how vital it is to avoid ending up in disappointing situations.
Planning is very important. And as I was saying, nobody even goes to war without a plan. And even when you look at the structures in our life, even the government, they have planning institutions.
Yes.
You start the year and there's a certain plan that the people are going through or that will guide. And even apart from even planning, sometimes even these plans may not go as we expected them to go. And it is okay to go back to the drawing board and say, this one actually didn't work. But also in that planning, there were successes that were there. So being able to celebrate those things. Sometimes our plans are very short term. Can we also be able to plan much, much ahead, 5 years, 10 years? Because also it gives us a more of like a vision board where you can be able to see things that you would want in the future. It also gives you motivation. And I think for our youth mostly and our children, being able to sit down with them and let them know, like Abok is saying, life is a process. You're here at this moment you have. How long do you see yourself living? Up to 70 years, and you're just 18. You can't give up in life. How would you want to see your life at 50, 60, 70 years? So that you can be able to even motivate yourself to move forward.
All right. Now, there's one Aisha here who's saying, I actually hate to hear other people say that I have it worse. I know, but at that point, it is not necessary to say what you are feeling. I am dealing with my own disappointments in my own way. And with that, we are completely out of time, but we appreciate you for sharing with us your thoughts in regards to this particular discussion. I have been speaking with Fred Abok, who is a mentor and a motivational speaker who has joined us via Zoom. And in studio, we have with us, that is Abok on your screens right there. And in studio, we have Njoki Mwangi, who is a family and marriage counselor. Thank you so much, Abok and Njoki, for being with us this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right. Now that brings us to a close of Good Morning Kenya. Thank you so much for staying with us. Be sure to join us again tomorrow morning right here on Good Morning Kenya. I'm Jane Wambui. Have a lovely day. God bless. See you tomorrow.